to bridge the gap between academia and industry. It brings together illustrious leaders to discuss pressing trends, providing students with unparalleled exposure to real-world HR practices. Carrying forward this legacy, we have chosen a theme that is at the forefront of every HR leader's mind. The theme for this year's symposium is Stagility, balancing workforce stability with agile transformation. In today's volatile business environment, organizations are tasked with a delicate balancing act, maintaining a stable core workforce while simultaneously cultivating agility to adapt to rapid change. Our discussions today will explore how companies are achieving this equilibrium to remain competitive and innovative. To delve deeper into this theme, we have curated two insightful panel discussions with leaders who are pioneering this very balance. We are incredibly grateful to them for joining us. I now invite Dr. Shubhra Patnaik to welcome our dignitaries with a bouquet of flowers. I now request the dignitaries on the dais to mark the auspicious beginning of this year's symposium by lighting the ceremonious lamp, a symbol of knowledge and wisdom.
Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvighnam Kurume Deva Sarvakarishu Sarvada. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvighnam Kurume Deva Sarvakarishu Sarvada. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvighnem Kurume Deva Sarvakarishu Sarvada.
Thank you all. Special thanks to Ms. Anvesha Gupta for the shloka chanting. I would now like to request Dr. Andrew Atta, respected Dean, School of Human Resource Management, XIM University, to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you very much. I am very honored to welcome each one of you this morning. Reverend Father S. Anthony Raj, S.J., Registrar XIM University, Mr. Magesh Sambasivan, VP People Organization Asia Pacific Assurant, our keynote speaker for this HR Symposium, and also our SAB member, Ms. Pratyusha Sharma, HR Head, Invesco India Private Limited, Dr. Brilliant S.K., Executive Vice President and Chief People Officer, Times Pro, Ms. Simran Men, Practice Lead, OD and Senior Leadership Development, Global AMDOCS, Ms. Mimangsha Popat, former DEI and Talent Lead for City, Ms. Aparna Kapoor, Senior Vice President, HSBC Commercial Banking, Ms. Nida Khanam, Head of Human Resources, Greater India Social Med Group. So every year when the topics are set. The XIMAHR team and Shubhra asked me, like, sir, what are your suggestions? What are these topics that we can take? So every year I kind of like the topic they give, but after the topic is chosen and the topic is finalized, then slowly I get triggered. Okay? That happens for both HR Symposium every year as well as for the shipping. And that's because I delivered this welcome address for both the events, and I start thinking how to make it more, thinking kind of a welcome speech. So, last couple of days was very busy for many of us, and last evening when I sat down to think about what to say tomorrow morning, the first thing that came in my mind was the Nobel laureate behavioral economist Daniel Kahneman. And he got his Nobel Prize because he proved scientifically the human bias, a very natural inclination and a very natural human bias, which he named as loss aversion. So in his own words, for most people, the fear of losing is a more powerful motivator than the hope of winning. So many a times we HR people are, always thinking how to motivate people. Here is the answer Daniel has given, for which he got his Nobel Prize. So I was trying to figure out what are some of the fears that happened in the last maybe 50 years. So I was looking at the ATM, automated teller machines, late 1970s, which were expected to make bank tellers obsolete. But they automated routine tasks, allowing tellers to evolve into sales and customer relationship specialists. Tellers have not died after the ATMs. The personal computers of 1980s, PCs sparked the fear of eliminating secretarial jobs. Those of you who, you can ask, those of you who are from West Bengal can ask how the dharnas were happening during 1980s, because nobody wanted the PCs in the banks. Yet they transformed the role into a modern administrative assistant. 1990s, the internet. The internet was predicted to destroy the brick and mortar retail, but it ignited global e-commerce boom, creating vast new industries in logistics and digital marketing. Digital photography, late 1990s. Digital cameras were seen as the end of professional photography. Instead, they actually democratized the art form and created a massive new market for digital editors and online content creators. Cloud computing, early 2000. The cloud was expected to cut down internal IT departments, but it created an explosion of new roles for cloud architects, security experts, and data engineers. Artificial intelligence, early 2010, about 2010 onwards, AI was prophesied to automate most white-collar jobs out of business, out of existence, but it has now become a powerful assistant, creating new roles. Robotic process automations, blockchain and cryptocurrencies. I can keep on naming remote collaboration tools, low-code, no-code platforms. So fear has been motivating people to change. It's only after change that we understood that things are not so bad as it is supposed to be. Now, last 1 year or so, generative AI, and I have taken this topic because it's about stability and agility and managing transformation. Generative AI has caused widespread panic. It's no longer fear, it's now panic. that writers, designers, coders would be made obsolete. By the end of 2025, these tools are going to be widely used. So, being a member of the Global Galileo Commission based in Geneva, the prediction is not wrong. I just wanted to show you something so that you understand where we are going to be. And this is mainly for my colleagues because we belong to this industry which is going to soon become will be the forefront of change.
Can you help me out with question number 39 here?
Of course. Is this the problem?
Yes, I don't really understand what to do here.
No problem. Let's take this to the blackboard. The key concept here is optical isomerism.
Got it. But how can you tell if an isomer is optically active?
Optically active compounds require a chiral carbon atom. A chiral carbon is one that is bonded to 4 different groups.
Okay, awesome. That makes sense. So how do I apply that to solve this problem?
Let me walk you through the steps to solve this problem.
Okay, got it. Let me find the structures first.
Sure, no worries. Feel free to show me when you're done.
I found 4 carbon chain structures. Is that correct?
Close, but not quite. There are 4 structures, but you've made a small mistake in the 3rd structure. Can you check your work again?
I can't actually find the mistake. Can you show it to me?
For sure. You added an extra hydrogen bond to the 2nd carbon atom. I'm circling it now.
Oh, okay. Good catch. That's actually really helpful. Thank you. So I think this is where the chiral center is. Can you confirm?
Yes, here is the chiral center. Well done.
Remember the optically active isomer problem we were working on? Can you show me what the 2 chiral molecules actually look like?
Sure. Have a look at the molecular structure. I've created the molecular structures of the 2 optically active isomers, also known as enantiomers of 2-bromobutane.
Thanks for all your help, Pastor.
So that's Google's Project Astra, which they have only launched in US, Canada, and UK. Okay, it will take some time to reach India. Till then, colleagues in the education sector can heave a sigh of relief, but it's not going to be long before a lot of professions are going to get overhauled. Okay? Just to sound polite, I'm not using the terms that are being used by people like Sam Altman or maybe Elon Musk. So as I was thinking yesterday evening, what's going on in terms of stability and transformation in a world which is going to rapidly change and things are not going to be like as they were before, whether they was internet or PC. This is a different kind of a change that's going to happen. So AI is going to be another technology wave. It's not going to be small change that is going to come. The very concept of stability or the very concept of stable job is going to be the first casualty. You like it or not, you accept it or not. So in a 2023 interview with Strictly VC, Sam Altman was very unequivocal about his goal, saying, my job is to fire you, not you personally, I mean the royal you, the AGI will do all of the work. This is not AGI, this is just a robotic agent that Google is developing. It has launched They are asking for testers. You can also join as a tester. This is not a call for retraining into a new role. It is a forecast of a major shift where, this is the important part, where the human labor is no longer going to be the central economic driver. Your GDP may not be measured by the contributions the way how we measure today. So it may require a total reorientation of how society values contribution, how managers create value, and what do we define as our new value. Our ability to adapt is now vastly outpaced by artificial intelligence's exponential growth. Now, no matter how funny he appears at times, Elon Musk, a maverick, warns that we are operating, this is very important what he said, on a biological timeline in a world of digital acceleration. And it is no-brainer that the digital acceleration rate is far, far faster than biological timeline progression, making agility, what we are going to discuss today, insufficient. While speaking at the UK's AI Safety Summit in November 2023, such a rapid and total transformation does not allow for stable adjustment. If you are looking for stability and you are looking for agility, you are looking for wrong things at the wrong time. You need to think beyond and think out of that. We can't talk about stability. We are no more in that PC kind of a change. So it forces a reactive stance. We can't be proactive anymore. Quite opposite. No? We always think that we have to be proactive. We can't be. Because things are going to change fast. You will be forced to become reactive. You won't be able to be proactive. Now, what we need to understand is this world that we are standing in now today is not a software upgrade that is happening. It is the dawn of a new civilization. Leaders are positioning AI as a new foundational element of this new civilization, not just a tool for the existing workforce. Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA, described AI data centers at the 2024 World Government Summit as a new type of factory. Instead of producing electricity, it produces intelligence. 24/7, there are going to be data centers that will produce, manufacture, generate intelligence, which is going to be maybe 5,000 times more and faster than the collective human intelligence. At the Galileo Commission in Geneva, we deal with global human consciousness. When the very production of intelligence is industrialized, humanity's orientation must shift from being the labor force to figuring out the purpose, alongside a new, inexhaustible, and a non-human one. So, in my second year class, I showed how something that takes about 2 days for a group of 5 assessment center assessors to design and make together, it takes maybe 2 days, 5 assessors. Live in the class, we have seen how AI made it in 5 minutes, precisely, without any mistakes, which takes 5 assessors, certified assessors, to take 2 days. We have seen that in second year class. So I would like to conclude maybe my not so welcoming speech, quoting a young Indian maverick whom I like very much personally, Ansh Mehra. who says, the future belongs to those who have great health, good taste, the ability to find patterns, and the right vocabulary to describe those patterns. So either you will be driven by AI or you will drive AI. Think stability and agility from that perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the inspiring words. Now, I warmly welcome our respected registrar, Father S. Anthony Raj, S.J., to deliver the inaugural address.
Respected Professor Andrew, Dean, School of Human Resource Management, respected Mahesh Sambasivam, the speaker, keynote speaker for this morning, and our SAB member, respected faculty colleagues, invited guests, the panelists for the two panels this day, dear friends from the media, and my dear students. Our Dean, provocateur par excellence, has already set the tone as usual for today's HR Symposium. And my congratulations go to the XIMAHR team, each one of you, both the present ones and the shadow team, and the faculty coordinators for XIMAHR, Dr. Shubhra and others, for organizing yet another HR Symposium with this very thought-provoking theme, stagility. In as much as our own university is going through this transition, last week I, as the administrative head, am seeing through this transition as our Vice Chancellor exited and the new one has come. And in fact, I'm between two meetings. How do you, how can you be stable as well as agile? And I'm sure this is for every organization. How do you combine these two elements? Are they opposed to each other? Living as we are in the startup era, am I called to be a sprinter or a marathon runner? How am I assured of stability in an organization when there is so much of layoff and there is inconsistent leadership, there is no proper successful succession planning, and how do I become agile, especially in the face of AI, very clearly sketched out for us by Professor Andrew. He dwelt on that so much. And we learn from various models. How do we achieve our goal of being stagile, stable as well as agile? How many of us are Spotify listeners? Oh, everyone, oh God, okay. So 2000, I'm sure you know about the Spotify model, I'm sure, right? Of an agile organization. Spotify is going through its own transformation now. Especially in the light of how the other streaming services are competing. It used to be a model at one point of time, just as they used the Scrum and Kanban, to their advantage, and how they developed their own organizations to deliver what they delivered from 2006 when they started up, when they had a startup, a Swedish company based out of Luxembourg, and how they increased their subscriber base. At this moment it is 696 million, active listeners, out of whom 276 million are paying premium. I am one of them from the time it came to India. But now I'm slowly wanting to shift from Spotify to the new one that has come into the market, Demos. Anyone using Demos here? Oh, good. Thanks, buddy. So now that's a new thing in. So Spotify is losing out, at least two in this room who are using Demos. So, and because Demos is an aggregator basically. Spotify is one streaming device. Demos brings all the music out there through various streaming partners, as it were, and then brings it to your device, and for a minimum price. It's not much, even in Indian rupees it's not much. And I am getting addicted to Demos now. And Spotify is losing, and so is Apple Music or our own, the local ones, JioSaavn, name it, Ghana. And so what makes an organization tick? What makes it stable across time and space? And what makes it agile as an organization within itself and in comparison to others? I'm sure we'll have a lot of meaningful conversations during the course of the day, listening from the industry experts as to how they see it right in their own organizations, how they see the models that are being lived out, out there, each individually unique models, and how these models can be adopted. That was one thing that Spotify model did not, succeed in others, because they just copy-paste. They are a copy-paste generation. They said, what works for Spotify will work for everybody. No, it doesn't. Models are there, and we have to create our own. The innovation has to come in. So I wish the very best of meaningful conversations during the course of the day, and I thank Magesh for taking.
Thank you, Father, for inspiring words and officially inaugurating HR Symposium 2025. It is now our privilege to introduce our respected keynote speaker for HR Symposium 2025, Mr. Magesh Sambasivan, Vice President, People Organization, Asia Pacific Assurant. Mr. Sambasivan leads the HR function across the region and manages Assurant's Global Capability Center in India. With over 25 years of experience across the US, Singapore, and the Philippines, he has held leadership roles in HR domains, including leadership development, change management, mergers and acquisitions, compensation and benefits, and talent management at organizations such as HP, Aditi Technologies, ANZ Bank, Accenture, and Society Generale. He's a computer science graduate from BITS Pilani and a proud MBA in HR and Systems alumnus of Xavier Institute of Management, Bhubaneswar. He's a strong advocate of using technology to put the focus back on the human in human resources. I cordially invite Mr. Magesh Sambasivan to deliver the keynote address.
thanks for that welcome, but I do prefer to call myself as an alumni of this institute. The rest of it all happened after that. So I'm first XIM alumni, so that's how I'd like to introduce myself here. Respected Father Registrar, Professor Andrew, and Professor Shukra. I didn't realize you are Professor Shukra now. I'm sorry, Dr. Shukra. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me and my fellow professionals from the industry, media and students. Thanks for inviting me to be the keynote speaker here. I was a panelist before COVID, so a couple of 7-8 years back. I was one of the panelists in one of the symposiums. And today to be as a keynote speaker here, I think it's sort of a graduation for me. Graduated from being a panelist to a keynote speaker. Thanks for this opportunity. And it's a privilege today to speak to all of you because we are living in a time of great change. A lot of change happening. Change happens always. It's not that change happens, every generation has its own change. But what's really different now is the pace at which it's happening, right? And most of the time, we realize what was yesterday is not what's going to work tomorrow. That's the pace at which the change is happening, and AI is changing the world in a big way. It's changing the way we interact with people. It's changing the organizations. It's changing the workplace. It's changing actually the work we do. A lot of changes are happening today, and it puts a lot of pressure on leaders and organizations on how to manage everything. And it's quite frightening. You heard Professor Andrew speak about everything about how AI is going to disrupt everything. My wife is a technologist. She tells me the same thing. I was frightened, right? I said, okay, for 2 days I'm away from home. No one is going to tell me AI is going to take your job, and you need to upgrade yourself, upskill yourself. And I hear him say the same thing here. But it's real. Artificial intelligence is changing a lot of ways in which we work, a lot of ways in which, as HR professionals, it's also bringing a big difference to our jobs. In the past, if you look at it, we always looked at leaders being transformational. We wanted to have leaders who are transformational, who can take the organization from where it is to where it goes to the next stage, and that's what we're looking at. It could be incremental. It could be something like maybe it could be a 2x factor, 3x factor changes, which the leaders do. But now it's with the tools, everything which is available at your disposal, it's absolutely exponential. The amount of change which you can do using AI is really exponential. But with all these changes coming in, we as humans always fear change. And it's always very important to see how do you take your workforce with it whenever you make these changes, because everything is disrupting. People feel very uncomfortable the way things are happening, the pace of change, everything, right? So leaders also need to operate in a different way. If you look at it in the past, it was all about we live in an environment which is VUCA, which you would have heard about. It's a volatile environment, it's uncertain, it's complex, it's ambiguous. At that point of time, you had people, you had certain algorithms, you found out way to handle it, right? You could do some sort of analysis, you could do some sort of, while it's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, it was always you could come up with solutions. There are leaders who said, well, let's be driven by the vision. Let's have a great purpose in our organization. And that should be our North Star, which will guide us whenever all these changes happen. People started looking at how do you empower people in the organization, you decentralize the organizations, make people take decisions much quicker, how do you make the entire decision-making process quicker. You looked at having collaboration, trust within the organization, how do I do it? So these are the things which help people navigate the VUCA world. And what was the most important thing there was, you started looking at how do I anticipate things, how do I assess the environment, and how do I adapt myself. That was perfectly fine because you knew there was uncertainty. The way I explain VUCA is, it's for when a foreigner comes to India. The first thing they look at the traffic and they say that, hey, how can someone walk here? It's totally unpredictable. I do not know who's coming from where. But then there was some method to the madness. People who are within that knew how to navigate it. And that's how the world was there before, as a volatile world, but then still you knew how to navigate it. COVID hit us. And AI also came in at the same time. So now it's a totally different thing which we are dealing with, right? It's now they have coined this as BANI, BANI for people who know that it is a very brittle word. So your supply chains can break anytime. What you think as your supplier, your customer, everything can change at any point of time. And you could be disrupted by anyone, anywhere. I'll give you a very good, and the person who disrupts you could be not your typical competitor. For example, if you look at it from 2022, 2021, 22 onwards, you had your price of the sales of chocolates in India went down quite a lot. And none of you would have imagined, right? People are not trying to, it's not that Indians became healthy overnight. People are still diabetic, people are eating sweets, but for some reason you have your parlays, Cadbury's, everyone looking at it and saying that what's happening in the world, that why is my chocolate sales going down while Indians are still unhealthy? The disruptor was your UPI payments. Because you started using UPI payments, in the past you used to give your chocolates as change, and that entire thing went away. So, and no one would have actually thought this thing is going to disrupt the way we work. Right? And this was, none of your management studies would have told you this is going to be a disruptor. That's the brittle part of it. And then we have a very anxious world today because we do not know what's going to happen. You have people in a state of anxiety everywhere, every time, right? You look at people, a lot of focus is on mental health today because of the anxiety people are going through. And it's because there's nothing predictable, as you never know what will happen next. You do not know whether your jobs are safe, you do not know what you learned or what you have done as a professional for the past 20 years, whether it's going to be relevant, how do you keep yourself upskilling. Everything is changing, right? People are anxious. And it's a very non-linear world. In the past, you put in an effort, maybe you know what the outcome could be. It was more like a typical Newtonian law which follows, right? But then today, a small tweak can change the entire thing. A small tweak can bring down your share prices, or it can topple governments. And it's absolutely non-linear. It's not that anyone today in this room has the power to change governments, to bring down companies, everything, right? So it's absolutely non-linear, and the last I is it's incomprehensible. You can't understand what's happening. You never know what's going to happen now. Suddenly you have governments becoming protectionist. You have tariffs coming in, everything happening, right? So it's an entirely BANI world. And in this time, an agile organization, what we call as an agile organization, is an organization which can survive changes. But there's a new term which has been coined by Nicholas, I always get his name wrong, which is Nassim Nicholas Taleb. The person who wrote about Black Swan, you have read about it, right? He says, in these days, organizations should learn to become anti-fragile. Anti-fragile means there would be chaos, it's a system where you will have chaos, you will have unpredictability, you will have shocks, you will have stresses, everything coming. But it's not about surviving. How do you thrive in such an environment? So what is it that makes organizations anti-fragile? You could be an agile organization, which means you are quick to respond. But then if you are an anti-fragile organization, you actually make the most out of it, right? How do you thrive in it? So that's what the organizations should now start looking at, being more anti-fragile, which is growth through stress. And it should be agile across the organization. It's not about one part of the organization looking at it. And as HR professionals, it brings up quite a lot of things. How do you increase the response time? Does your org structure today helps you to increase your response time quickly? And most of the traditional, conventional way is to think that I need to be optimized. I used to ensure great return on investment. Do I have an optimized process, everything in place? For example, if you look at it, as an organization, you have your suppliers, buyers everywhere across the chain. Your suppliers typically could be someone in, let's take an example. Most of the US organizations have their suppliers in China. Now, because of all these changes, they have to start looking at different things, right? Why did people move work to China? Because it was cost efficient at that point of time. It made business sense. But then if you have to build in that anti-fragility in you should look at trying to see whether you own the process end to end. I think one of the organizations which embraces uncertainty, that's one of the strengths for being an anti-fragile organization, is you always pick up a lot of examples, right? You say how Netflix keeps disrupting yourself, they invest on new series, and over a period of time, when they realize that the series is not working, they change it. But I think the greatest example for an anti-fragile organization for me is the way Reliance works. If you look at it, not many of us know Reliance is actually investing quite a lot in making batteries now, because they know EV is going to be the future of this thing, and they're getting the experts in the world, right, to actually start making batteries which would be better than BYD's plate batteries. Same thing they did with, say, setup Geo. It was way ahead of their times, right? When people were looking at 2G, 3G, they were looking at 5G. So it's this sort of a thing to look into the future and try to be 2 steps ahead of everything you do. That's what will make organizations thrive in the future, right? And it's all about being anti-fragile. How do you look at things when chaos? There's no clarity. There is chaos. How do you make the best out of it? Funny, I was actually looking at examples for anti-fragile, and usually whenever I start looking, it's no longer I go to Google, I go to Copilot, and I started asking, give me examples of anti-fragile organizations, blah blah blah. Everything I was doing it, and suddenly it took me. I said, give me anti-fragile examples in Indian mythology. And that was the thing where it came about. Apparently, there was this demon called Speech in Indian mythology. So this demon was actually unpredictable. So you never know what this person will do at any point of time. And he had this unique power that whenever a drop of his blood falls down, you will have more demons arise. It's not that one drop, one demon. That's also, it's one drop 10, one drop 20, everything, this will be there. Right? So it's a very funny, this one. And to counter that, you had, I think, an avatar which was taken, Durga's avatar, Kali avatar, right? Which came in, which had multiple hands and which was quite agile, which had to ensure that at any point of time, it was not about cleaning up, it was about ensuring that the blood doesn't touch the ground and do it, right? So you had to understand the system to build it up. So it was quite an interesting one. So, and the other one, a great example of the anti-fragile system is the human body itself. When you lift weights and when you do exercises, your muscle actually muscle tears, but then it happens to make it stronger when it regenerates, and that's how an anti-fragile system really works. So it's how do you actually design anti-fragile organizations by keeping employees comfortable and safe, secure. That's what we should be looking at now. Again, and this is where there's a lot of uncertainty involved. There's a lot of trying to do if-then scenario building, everything which you want to do to survive in a Barney environment, and that's when AI comes into play. Actually, if you look at it, let's take one by one, right? The brittle part of it. How do you survive a brittle environment? It's basically you can use AI to do predictive analysis. You can try to find out, automate processes. You can try to find out where exactly processes could fail. So that helps it there. And the anxious part of it, you have a lot of AI apps now which look at sentiment analysis, which look at bringing calmness through clarity, providing people things like your meaningfulness and wellness apps. All these things are in place, which doesn't need a one-to-one interaction, but people can use this to get a sense of comfort, which is there. The non-linear part of it, you can do AI-based simulations and the various machine learning models, which also help you to look at simulate scenarios in a non-linear manner, which you can do. You can never do it because with your conventional computing power, you can never do it. But now with AI, you can do it much better. And the incomprehensible part of it is also you can understand through insights, AI-assisted decision making, and that's how people are starting to use AI to look at all these things, right? So that's coming also. That's on how organizations can leverage AI part of it. Now coming to my favorite one, right? As HR professionals, how do we use AI in our day-to-day job? Because every time people look at it saying that everything is going to be automated, it's going to be fully artificial intelligence, it's going to take over your job, everything. Today, if you look at it, we use AI a lot in recruitment, where we use your bots to screen through multiple resumes, try to do mapping, try to find out who's the ideal candidate with a percentage of success or the same. And we use it in training. Training is one area where a lot of AI is being used. One of the things which I personally use is today in our workforce we have multi-generational workforce, and we have people who learn very differently. There could be someone who enjoys listening to a podcast, and there could be someone who wants a PPT to learn, or someone who would want a video to see and learn the topic. Right? But using AI, I can actually fill the entire learning content. I can tell what is the learning outcome which I am trying to achieve, and I can create learning journeys, which could be either a podcast, it could be either a PowerPoint presentation or anything. Right? I can have multiple things. So depending upon my learning style, I can go in and learn the way I want to achieve the same outcome. So that's a brilliant way in which we are using AI today, and obviously to look at engagement, to look at sentiment analysis, to do predictive analysis, to predict attrition. That has been the usual thing which people are doing. But AI does save time for us, but it does not really replace. It improves efficiency, but the empathy part of it does not replace. Right? Let me give you an example of what I did in one of the organizations that I worked. This was about a couple of years back. We used a sentiment analysis tool. This was something that it was a chat bot that used to chat with employees in the organization and predict intervals I could give it when it needs to chat. But the interesting part was that chatbot used to learn, and when it goes to you after 6 months, after a particular conversation, it picks up from the last conversation and asks how you do it, everything. It was a brilliant one. So we could actually, instead of HR business partners having conversations with 12,000 odd employees, I could use the chatbot to have conversations with employees as and when I decided. I could look at instances where they had chatbots, everything, and then I could come back, and I had huge amount of data information with me. But then that alone doesn't help. I need to interpret it. I need to understand what it exactly says, right? So it's a sentiment analysis, the same. It can tell me that a person is engaged, happy, not happy. But it cannot go beyond that and tell me why the person is not happy, why the person is not engaged. I have to do it as a person. And we had a very funny, this one also, right? Where I was tracking one of the employees. The employee was constantly showing happy always. And suddenly I saw a tip. The employee said she was unhappy, the woman. And I didn't know why she was unhappy, because there was nothing in the environment. She was a top performer, everything. And then we went in and we checked the chats. One of the chats, which was below us, she had actually given a suggestion. But then we had not responded to it. And so she felt that she was not being heard, right? So from then we started changing that. When we get all the results, we also go in and look at what people have said. Other than that, it doesn't make any meaning, right? Because AI just follows rules, but it's left to humans to interpret everything. Without that, it becomes absolutely just a tool, which is a very fancy one, if you don't really use it to interpret one. This was a very interesting learning for us, and what we also used to do was, whenever I used to go and meet a team of 300, 400 people, sometimes you go and you have an agenda to speak about, and you go and you speak something to them, but you never know what is in their mind. So we used to look at all the conversations which people had in the last 3 months, create a word cloud out of it, and you know what are the important things which is on top of people's mind, right? So that you could have conversations which make more meaning to them, which makes it more relatable to them. So that's something which we used, and one of the things which we realized was building trust with people is when you have these conversations, right? You cannot build relationship using trust is not built using algorithms. It's actually built by relationships. So you can use AI to actually give you a lot of information, but the final step of how do you use it, how to derive benefit from it is completely left to us. Today, AI is changing jobs. What we should be looking at the jobs is, it's not AI is going to replace everyone's job. It's how do you have the human plus AI working together. That's the most important part of it, right? There are a lot of things which AI can help you to do much better. You can use it for any repeatable tasks or any task where you want to collect a lot of information from anywhere. That's an amazing tool to use, but it gives you data. It gives you information, but still the decision making should be yours. And that's the way you can leverage AI in our world. What also helps a lot is in personalization. Because you have access to so much information about a particular individual, you can make experiences very personalized for each people, right? So one of the biggest things which we try to do is, while you have a huge workforce, how do I still look at it as a workforce of one? Which is, how do I treat each person in a very individual manner? And that's where artificial intelligence comes in quite a lot, because it gives me the entire history of that individual, or the entire life cycle of the individual. When I go and meet the person, I have the entire information with me. And I can curate experiences based on what that individual person wants. And that's a great tool. So just to conclude, right, unpredictability is going to be there. AI is going to be there. But you still need to have ethics, you need to have empathy, and the human spirit will always be that way. So the future of HR is not going to be less human. It's going to be more human, powered by AI. That's the way it's going to be. So let's look at how do we build workplaces where technology empowers connections. It does not replace connections. Still, you use technology to reach out to people, but the final touch is still a human touch which happens. Where you use data to drive decisions, and you don't use data to just make decisions, right? It helps you to make decisions, that's it. I think because at the end, what makes HR a very powerful function is not the tools we use, but it's the heart which we lead with. So having said that, I think, thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I also look forward to the two sessions which we have later. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, sir, for those invaluable and thought-provoking words. I now invite respected Father Registrar to felicitate our esteemed keynote speaker, Mr. Mangesh Sambasivan. I now request our respected Dean, School of Human Resource Management, to felicitate respected Registrar, Father S. Anthony Raj S.J. A critical question emerges. How do we enhance stagility while preserving the essential human element of our legal practices? Our esteemed panel members for today are Ms. Pratyusha Sharma, Head HR, Invesco India Private Limited; Dr. Brillian S.K., Executive Vice President and Chief People Officer, Times Pro; Ms. Simran Menon, Practice Lead, Organizational Development and Senior Leadership Development Global, Amdocs. Our moderator for the panel discussion is Dr. Shubhra Patnaik, Associate Professor, School of Human Resource Management, XIM University. I would now like to invite our esteemed panel members and moderator to kindly join the stage for the panel discussion. For the panel discussion today, we are honored to have Ms. Pratyusha Sharma, Head HR Invesco India Private Limited. Ms. Sharma brings 20 plus years of diverse experience across HR leadership, sales and marketing, customer support, operations, Six Sigma, and business solutions. Having worked with global organizations like Cognizant, General Electric, and leading IT and research firms, she is also an active member of regional HR communities and industry forums such as NASSCOM, HIC, and CII. She is widely recognized for advancing HR practices, promoting women and child safety, and shaping future leadership. A frequent university and panel speaker, she is passionate about inclusive workplaces and enabling careers, living by her motto, I am where I can impact careers and lives. Thank you so much for joining us today, ma'am. I am now honored to introduce Dr. Brillian S.K., Executive Vice President and Chief People Officer, Times Group, and a Gallup Certified Strengths Coach. A transformational HR leader with over 27 years of cross-functional expertise, Dr. Brillian S.K. has been the architect of Times Group's people strategy, shaping future-ready workplaces through innovative human capital solutions. His career spans leadership roles at Aptech, BNP Paribas, CRISIL, and SP Gen Global, bridging technology and people domains across IT, BFSI, education, and logistics. Recognized with the Top 10 Global CXO Excellence Award 2024 and the REX Karamveer Gold Fellowship 2024, he is also a storyteller, educator, and thought leader in leadership and organizational development. It is an honor to have you with us today, sir. It is an honor to introduce Ms. Simran Men, Practice Lead, Organization Development and Senior Leadership Development, Amdocs India. Ms. Simran brings 20 plus years of global experience in OD and leadership, partnering with business and HR leaders on talent strategy, leadership development, cultural transformation, and inclusive succession planning. She has led global initiatives to accelerate senior women leaders into enterprise roles and integrate Gen AI into leadership practices. Certified in Gallup Strengths Coaching, MBTI, Instructional Design, and Transaction Analysis, she is known for designing business-aligned and personally resonant interventions. A committed inclusion advocate and LinkedIn top voice, she actively contributes to academia through lectures and writing. Thank you so much for joining us today, ma'am. I would now like to introduce the moderator for the panel discussion, Dr. Shubhra Patnaik, Associate Professor at the School of Human Resource Management, XIM University. With 17 years of experience in consulting and academia, Dr. Patnaik specializes in performance management, job evaluation, compensation, and talent assessment. A certified assessor, she is trained in behavioral event interviews, the levels of work matrix, and strata job evaluation based on the Hay method. Her creative stints often create spaces for singing and playing violin. A proud mother, she also writes short stories and poems that she loves reading to her son. Thank you all for joining us today. Now, I cordially hand over the session to our respected moderator, Dr. Shubhra Patnaik.
Thank you, Shatanshree Rujita, and good morning to everybody present here. Esteemed industry dignitaries, my panelists, our friends from media houses, my faculty colleagues, and my dearest students. Welcome to this first panel discussion, which is themed around keeping the human touch alive in the age of AI and automation in HR. Very, very interesting and topical theme to discuss, which we all have been discussing in almost every session in all courses, right? So, we have Buka and we have Bani too, but the relentless dynamism doesn't stop. The HR space definitely is in flux, others with a lot of opportunities, yes, but also a lot of challenges, a lot of apprehensions, and a lot of questions that we have for our panelists. Statistics, 75% Indian HR teams are already using AI and automation in some way or the other. In the next 1.5 years, this number is going to rise to 93%. That means almost everybody is going to use AI and automation in some way or the other. Teams which are using these tools have reported that they are actually benefiting and there is an 80% productivity boost for them. So that is also true for all of us. For a function like human struggling from quite some time to probably get a seat at the strategic table, this looks like good news. Repetitive tasks and transactional tasks can actually get automated. AI could take over some of them, leaving a space for strategic innovations in HR. So more strategic, that is what we always wanted, right? However, this will not come without potential challenges, right? Challenges of maintaining employee trust, maybe, fairness, empathy, compassion, these could be questions. What roles would evolve? What roles would get redundant? And sir also mentioned that you cannot be proactive because you don't know what's coming. You have to be reactive. But that also reminds me of Mark Twain. He would say, if I have to deliver an impromptu speech and a good one, I would probably practice for 3 weeks or more. So in order to be reactive, what are the proactive competencies that we must practice? What competencies will no longer be needed? What competencies definitely would come to our use? That is what we want to know. What roles would get added? We were discussing in class and there were very, very interesting titles and designations of roles that had come up. So let's also hear from the panelists about these things. Few examples before I switch to our panelists and look for answers from them. When a company like DeepSense uses your social media posts to come up with a personality profile of yours, gives it to your recruiters, based on which probably you get selected or you get rejected, how do you feel? You never knew that when you posted this would be used against you. Is this legal? Probably yes, because when you post it, you allowed public to view it. It's public data, but you never knew that this way it would be used. So is it ethical? That ethics question always remains with us. HireView is a company which does robos interview you. The first round of interviews happens with robos. They say that they're very transparent, they're very objective, bias-free because they are studying micro-expressions. Based on that, they're rejecting people, they're selecting people. How do you feel to be rejected by a robo? That is the question. Do you really feel good? Students here? You will not. There is a lot of no that I am seeing there. I will also not. To be rejected by a robo, we feel sadder probably. We also feel that it is not justice. I wanted to speak to somebody. I did not get a chance to speak. So while we speak to a robo, we do not even consider that we spoke to somebody. So again, the question of empathy, trust, compassion, all of that comes back, right? We all know that the mark companies have entered our life in a big, big way. But we don't know that very, very silently, but very powerfully, they are actually behavior modeling a whole generation, not only a generation, but a society. I don't know how many of you have seen this series on Netflix, which is Social Dilemma. How many of you have seen it? Many of you have seen, and we know how they are behavior modeling us, even without we knowing it. Isn't it? It is far more dangerous. There is a movie that has come up on Netflix called Control. Have you seen it? Some of you have seen it. People who have not seen it, don't bother, don't see it, because it is quite boring. But the message is very good. The message is about a social media influencer who gets into trouble because of data piracy and AI intruding into your life. Not helping, but intruding into your life, negatively, right? So all these things are happening. There's another example of a job sourcing portal, Merker. Does not even allow you to register with it if you do not clear an AI-based interview. Is it fair that I am not able to even search for a job because I couldn't clear an AI interview? We don't know. We will have to think about it. So we have these questions for our panelists today. I want to start with Simran ma'am. Simran ma'am, because Amdocs works in this area. with?
Not really, but yeah, we use a lot of Gen AI today in many of our work.
Correct. So we want to know from you, ma'am, what are some of these interesting areas where AI and automation can really be of help?
So maybe first of all, I'll start by saying that it looks like a scary world when you hear that a lot of us would be replaced after a while, and maybe the bots and the agentic agents will start taking over everything. And we've not seen that era. Maybe we have to take one step at a time. But what I find really exciting is the way AI has expanded the ability of HR to sense and to respond to, across the entire employee life cycle, not only with a lot of speed, but also with timely and relevant interventions. So if I start thinking about a talent acquisition function, and Magesh sir referred to some of it before in his keynote, to even start looking at a potential candidate who's not even actively looking for a job or a role with us, to being able to keep their interest alive by helping them understand what skills are required for the potential jobs that they could do for us, the roles that they could take up with us, to keep giving these AI nudges that push them towards attending a tech community of a particular kind, of their interest area, or even sessions, that expert panel sessions that we do with some of our experts in a particular technology, say a Python or anything else, and make sure that they are attending some of these programs, so the interest starts building and exploring Amdocs as a potential employer. So moving an active, a passive candidate to becoming an active job seeker with us is possible a lot of times with the right kind of AI nudges. And today, I won't quote the numbers here, but there is a significantly large database that we have in place for providing these timely AI nudges and ensuring that we keep these prospective candidates warm. Another example is about really taking away a lot of the paperwork and the pre-boarding, onboarding kind of administrative work that essentially people would do in the past by automating them and making sure that it's being done through an AI app that we are working with, using a lot of AI in that particular space, and the human intervention comes in only in certain specific places. For example, if there is a onboarding and the first 60 to 90 days, of course you will automate a lot of stuff to provide a seamless onboarding experience to someone, but you will always need the human in the loop, which is the buddy or the manager, to be able to seamlessly integrate them into the organization, because the assimilation plays a very important role in a new employee's journey with the organization. So that's the second example that I can share. The third would be about really looking at how do we integrate a lot of AI into our learning interventions as well, by providing the right kind of nudges. And again, I would align with Magesh in terms of what he brought to the table of being able to give the employees and a bouquet of different kinds of learning options and modalities for them to choose from, own their development in the organization through the right nudges that the AI is able to provide. And finally, when we off-board or let go of a candidate, making sure that AI considers them as future employees of Amdocs again. So the entire life cycle today, a lot of it has got automated by bringing in AI at the right place. And I think we're looking at even more, and there's a huge HR transformation also that we're going through, which helps in terms of looking at, the fact that an HR business leader is there in the organization is a lot to do about the strategic role that they play, and also the way they can come closer to people. Because while I think in so many years of experience, I've also seen that over the period of time, a lot of operational work was being done by our HR VPs. And a lot of that time was going and doing stuff which moved them away from people, actually, and away from being strategic partners. So with this, I would say that it's a good story because I'm automating a lot of my work and pushing that work away to probably an AI, and I'm also looking at giving these HRs the opportunity and put them back in the strategic role that they are meant for, and to bring the empathy, the relationships, orientation that is much required today, and become the true partners of business in their journey. So I think that's something that I'd like to talk about.
Simran, thank you so much for letting us know that now we are closer to people. We are not far at all. Pratyusha ma'am, I would want to come to you with a question which is very, very important in this AI era. And that is about data security and privacy, because you are into wealth management, you are into Invesco. It is extremely important for your clients that data security should be there. So of course I have the same question for you also. How are you using AI and automation in your organization, in Invesco? But additional thing that we have in mind is, what about data security? Because that's so important for you.
So thanks, Dr. Shubhra, and I hope I get the doctor right. I subconsciously I need to call you the doctor, right? Are you? Or not? Okay. So good afternoon, everyone, and thanks. And it's a great honor to be on this panel with the youngsters in the team here who give us more of the energy, right? So I have a question before I answer your question to the audience. That's maybe, how many of y'all really are fearing or scared of AI in the future? Can I see a show of hands? You can be true to yourself, I don't know who you are. So 30%. How many of y'all are excited of the future? Awesome. So we have almost 70% of them excited of the future. So that's great. I think if you're scared, you are fearing what AI is going to bring to the table. Absolutely. It's a challenge. You will face obstacles, but please embrace it and don't fear it. Just embrace with a lot of curiosity. So that's my small tip for you. And for those who are excited, yes, it's going to be a great era of learning. I constantly learn, and I'm going to bring in some of my experiences of using AI and automation. So I come from sales, marketing, business, and a Six Sigma background. So when I was using Six Sigma, for those of you who know, where we implemented a lot in GE, when Simran said she's from Jekis, it has been inbred into our blood, right? We need to simplify processes. We need to get our systems in place. And then post that, the lean tools came into picture, right? You had a lot of lean simplification, creating journey maps, value stream mapping. So there is a lot what we do to ensure what is the value added versus non-value added. Then came the era of RPA, automation, lots of blueprints. So it's constantly we are progressing to see how we can simplify our work and have a seat on the table. And I come from business and operations, and I used to think like, oh, wow, it's going to be an exciting journey moving into HR. And when I got into the HR stream around 14 years back, I've been constantly for 9 hours, 10 hours, sitting on the Excel. I know there was no workday at that time. And we used to have different Oracle, PeopleSoft, different systems trying to figure out. So absolutely, it is something we constantly work transactionally. And today what AI is doing is, it's just removing our transaction part. It's giving us speed, but absolutely the future is how you make those judgments, how do you make those decisions, and constantly simplify your process. Automate what is possible. Think differently, right? And coming to what you asked me, of course, I just wanted to give the background because absolutely it's a constant evolution on how automation, process simplification, and technology is being used in all our workplaces. So it's not very scary, but it's an evolution because I've evolved the last 18 years from Six Sigma to Lean to automation to AI, now agentic AI. So it's exciting to learn every day. And to your question on how we've implemented, whether it was in Invesco, earlier I was with Cognizant, constantly we kept looking at how can we innovate, how can we create experiences for our employees as HR leaders. We need to get them to understand. I'll give you an example, right? I'm sure some of you would have heard of all the appraisals, performance management, what we do for our employees. And it's so difficult for managers to have those conversations with employees. And it's constantly you want feedback. There are many people who don't want feedback. Many people who say, yes, I have done my work very well, and I'm doing everything right, and the manager doesn't know how to communicate. It cannot be taken over by AI. It has to have a conversation. It has to be able to build it. And there are a lot of tools. I was talking to somebody and they said, we have a tool which gives every week a feedback. I open an app and I won't remember, right, when my team members or my employees are doing. And every week I can add the feedback, which translates to every quarter, where it consolidates, summarizes the AI for me as a manager to have those conversations. So these are what is going to help each one of us. And in the asset management space and in Invesco, absolutely, it's a lot of integration of systems. Yes, we use Workday, and the integration of systems and having the AI and API tools on these systems takes time consuming. It is time consuming. So I have two brilliant trainees who have joined from XIMB just this year, 4 months, Ishan and Muskan. I think both of them have joined 4 months back. So constantly what Ishan is working on, and I must give this example. I gave him a challenge to work on a Workday project where I asked him to simplify a certain process, understand the process. To be honest, he's a brilliant guy, but when I really asked him, it's taking time. He thought he can do it fast, but he realized that's going to take 3 months, 6 months to understand the big picture, learn, do it. So when you get from here to the campus to the corporate, it's absolutely, there will be some challenges, but you will have to go through that whole process, automation, understand the systems, understand how you have to influence the stakeholders, and data security is something where he's got caught up, right? Of course, employee data is very precious, and the security integrator, so he thought he'll get an access to the API. But you cannot give access to everybody. And you have to wait, you have to understand how to change management, how to create that change in the stakeholders. So these are going to take time, and whether it is in our world at Invesco or anywhere, I think data, how do you use data, how do you integrate technology, and how do you create that candidate employee data experience is going to be important. Hence it takes time. So we need to understand that, that's when I got that.
Ma'am, thank you so much. We have a lot of follow-up questions for you, but I'll come back to you. Brilliant sir, I'll come to you. You have a learning platform which is absolutely brilliant. And any career stage, we can actually refer to some of the courses there. So what about AI and automation? How do you use it at Times Pro? We already saw the video of Google's project, and that is scary for our jobs. So is Times Pro also going to do that to us? Are you going to be that ruthless to take away our jobs in future?
थप्पड़ से डर नहीं लगता साहब, AI से डर लगता है. And I think that's what everyone is fearing about. Right from the time we came into this room, Professor Andrew, Magesh, Father Anthony, all of them said something where we felt, yaar, मैं जाऊँ तो जाऊँ कहाँ? Isn't it? It sounds scary, but it is not. So let me tell you, I knew about AI way back in 1990. How many of you knew about AI in 1990? No one. You were not even born, right? But we had a band called Enigma. And they had a song which started with AI, telling us in advance that it's coming. So we didn't have to fear. Just look at us. And I was very excited when Pratisha said that I have young people, and I was like feeling so good. And then she changed the context to say, in front of me. Right? So you need to understand it's all about the context. And when we think about TimesPro, we are an organization which focuses on learning and development. And yes, AI is here. It is here as an enabler. It is not here to do anything else but to simplify things, which I would say in simpler terms, gada majuri mat karo dosto. Right? We are so used to doing donkey's work that we forget that there are intelligent ways to get things done. And when we think about learners, look at life for each one of you. I don't recollect who said this, but people learn, I think it was Magesh who mentioned it, that we learn from even a podcast. Why do you need a classroom training today? It's a question, it's a deeper question. I know I am someone who will be, in front of 21 guns in a university where I'm asking this question, do you really need a classroom training? But think of it from a different perspective. We are all humans, assuming that we are all. We love that human touch. We love someone coming and telling me, it's okay, yaar, chalta hai, sab theek ho jayega. Right? AI can only give us information, but it will not tell us why that happened and what can we do to make it better for us. The problem comes in, and the reason why we all end up fearing is because we don't know. And I had a boss by the name of Giri Vedak, I don't want to tell the year, but still 2000, when he told me a very interesting thing. It's not easy. If you are in HR, on a daily basis, a minimum of 500 to 1000 CVs come into your inbox. Now imagine that poor recruiter going through each and every resume only to find out that I asked for 27 years of work experience and this is a 27-year-old which has applied. 90% of the profiles are junk. उसकी दिमाग की तो है ना? Isn't it? Isn't that a reality? If you are in that role, what would you do? You would say, यार कुछ अच्छा काम दो मेरे को, intelligent. I want to feel productive. And that's when we brought in AI to assist us to give some filters. Now that filter gives us a sense of how fit the CV is based on the requirement that we have. And it's intelligent than just looking at keywords. Today we have a resume builder which works on what is so called as increase your ATS factor, which is automated screening system which you have. It gives you a 85-90% rank so that your CV stands out. But this is smarter than that. So what you need to understand is AI is helping reduce the mundane tasks, at the same time bring in a level of intelligence which a person's eye may miss out. There is certain terms which people don't use in their CVs, but they have worked on. How do you understand? So you analyze the work profile and give a score. I can tell you, the tool that she mentioned, we used it as a pilot, and guess what? It gave us a fake thing. It rejected the candidate, but when we assessed that candidate, the candidate was found to be good. So what happens here is, if we depend blindly on AI, we are the ones who are fools. We end up losing. A wise person once said, trust but validate. And for you, it's important to validate what AI throws to you. AI will give you information points. And that has helped us, honestly. Because now what we do is, we look at an average sense and say, we can assess. Because there are parameters which fit in. Now that has helped reduce the workload of the recruiter, who's no longer getting frustrated by screening those 500 CVs every day. And on the video interview, it is important. I'll tell you why. The video interview is not a rejection tool. It's a tool which will help us analyze the person before we get into an actual in-person conversation. And what are the parameters that we look at? The level of confidence, the eye movements. An interviewer like me would look at these when we do an in-person interview. but it becomes very difficult in a virtual environment. Right? That's where the proctoring element has come in. But people are smarter than everyone. India is known for jugaad. So you bring something, there will be a crack. Right? So there is this intelligent person, I don't know if you've seen that ad where it was on Instagram. I'm also on Instagram, very active. Whenever I'm frustrated, I go there and see these reels. There is this lady who's giving an interview. She has a smartphone, she has a big TV screen, and this is a small laptop. And the way in which she converses, the questions are being transmitted to the phone. The phone then throws the response through generative AI on screen, and she cracks the interview. बोलो इसका कोई जुगाड़ है और कुछ? You can't do anything. So that is where you need to start playing smart. Look at patterns. Understand how things are moving. One of the tools which we used, and I said that video interviews help me, is get a sense of confidence, language, because we don't ask cliched questions. We just ask them to introduce themselves, talk about their profile. Because the moment you bring in an interview question, we know it is 100% generative. Today, unfortunately, even resignations are on generative AI. I want to resign from this organization, please type me a letter. Ta-da, copy paste, send. And Magesh was sharing, someone is so lazy that he forgot that he's changed companies and this is a new company. He sent a mail from the past organization, I want to resign from XX. So you need to think. So that is where I think the ability for us as HR professionals or people like you who are students is to get a sense of what you can take from AI, what will work for you. Don't copy everything that you see. Use your intelligence. My boss had said way back in 2016 when we set forth to define the vision, mission, values is watch the competition but don't copy it. So I'll say this to all of you as students, watch what's happening across the world in AI, in technology, but don't blindly copy it. Use selectively, use your intelligence and be smart. And I think that's how you can just say, अब तो AI से भी डर नहीं लगता साहब.
Wonderful. So, we have been discussing about how definitely AI can be of help and take away transactional tasks, repetitive ones, whereas we have space for doing something new and something more relevant. So, from the question of relevance, ma'am, you were mentioning Ishan and Muskan. We are very, very happy that you mentioned them and you're liking their work. So, what would you say to our students here? How do they remain relevant in this dynamic era of AI? What are the new competencies that we must work on?
So competencies are the same, right? But the way you handle those situations is going to be different. So I keep telling the team, right? There are three things to whatever Brilliant said. It's very important to have the judgment. So all the examples he gave is AI is there to help you, enable, augment your work. But the kind of judgment you need to make as HR professionals, and I was talking to somebody over the tea break, the power of choice is going to become more and more critical. You know, the world is going to be complex. There will be 10 people like us who will come and give you an offer letter. But I'm sure the future is going to be, you are going to come and say, I'm not going to join your company. I'm sure it's going to change. It's going to be tough for employers. So that's how it's going to be. So the clear judgment and power of choice you make is going to be very important. Second is the decision making. Even today, all of us in this room who are more than 2 decades of experience, I'm sure every day, you know, whether it is automation, whether it's AI, all the tools are helping us. But when I sit with a sentiment analysis to what Mangesh said or to anybody, I have to see what is the decision I'm going to make. And I'll give you an example, right? We constantly do something called these stay interviews, why people are staying back, what is the reason. So yes, all my pulse surveys, sentiment analysis throws up a number, throws up data and gives me objective data. But then unless I do those stay interviews or get to understand the pulse of people, I don't know the exact reason why people are going. So when we do, lots of us do attrition analysis, first thing it comes saying that better career choices, better compensation analysis. But when I go do those interviews, it gives me completely a different picture. And I need to make my decisions based on that. How do I change the operating model? How do I work through those? So judgment, decision making, and absolutely the last one, the 3 competencies I say is on the critical thinking, right? And I know you've been using this word. I'm sure lots of people have trained you. You would understand, but it only comes with experience and exposure. So constantly doing those internships, thinking on your feet, whether it is being able to have that exposure. Why do your, today campuses or universities ask for internships? So that you can really get that experience and think on your feet. How do you do this? You have to fail. You have to fail, experiment, and constantly think from beyond. So I think clearly these 3 are very fundamental, and it's very important on how you make that choice and the difference. So there is a lot of evolution, but when they come on board, of course, into the organizations, to your point where I said we have trainees, we have past trainees and all, it will take time. So I was just telling somebody in the pre-break, don't speed up, go in the speed, but constantly understand and observe the work, the workplaces, how they're working. For example, I come from Cognizant and it's a scale company. I handle 80,000 people, I had 400 team members, but when I joined Invesco, it's smaller team, it is not a scale game. It's only 1,800 employees, I have 25 team members. I say it is not going to be a scale game. I had to unlearn and learn a lot. Even at this point, it took me 6 months to 1 year. But absolutely, the observation, the appetite to learn actually helped me to be more calmer and see where I can tone down, where I should not. You have to play a strategic role and a transactional role. A lot of people come saying, I want to automate, I want a strategy role. So absolutely, it's good to have a transaction role and a strategy role. But you need to do the basics, you need to do the transactions, and then think the strategy. So all these play a part when you start coming into the workforce. So don't be in a hurry. I'm sure you'll get what you want. And I've been telling, you don't need to retire by 30, 35. You have a lot of time. You take your time, work towards your goals, and be there. Speed can happen. Today it's all about valuation game. It's all about, can I become a CHRO by the time I'm 30? Can I be a CHRO by the time I'm 28? Absolutely great dreams. You will get there, but just keep going on your path.
Thank you, ma'am, for that wonderful message. Students, I think it's absolutely clear to all of us, critical thinking and decision making is going to be crucial. Not only for you, but for all of us. And at this point, I actually remember Professor Govindarajan. Second years, you know him, right? So while all of us are talking about AI and ChatGPT, and some of us are actually telling you that you can't copy your assignments from ChatGPT, he set a question paper saying open ChatGPT, right? So I think that is where we have to be. All of us have to be, because ChatGPT is a partner right now. AI has become an HR partner, business partner, your learning partner. So we can't avoid them. But we would have to upgrade ourselves, and ma'am has just pointed out those very crucial competences that we must focus on. But ma'am, you also told something that really caught my attention. That's power of choice. And with that, Simran ma'am, I come to you. We also spoke about personalization. Lisa spoke about personalization, and yeah, hyper-personalization is a buzzword right now. In fact, anthropologists are telling that big data is no more relevant. It has to be richer data about employees, and they're terming it as thick data. So, what do you think? How can we bring in this hyper-personalization in organizations? How much role has AI to play in it? And where definitely we have to bring in the human touch. Where is that balance?
So thank you for that question, and I think I love the answers that you gave about critical thinking, and they're very, very fundamental skills that we need to go back to and think about. one of the things that we have today is this, and I pick up from what Pratyusha said, the power of choice. There is no dearth of information available around us. You just type a question and a prompt, and a very nice prompt in ChatGPT, believe me, gives all the answers. You figure out, okay, I don't even need a learning team in the organization, right? The fact that right now what we are seeing is we are trying to, as at least from the organization that I am a part of, we are trying to look at how we are able to keep ourselves as an organization alive by understanding what are the key skills that we require in the organization. So and how many of these key skills are available? What are the future skills that will be required for us to sustain and also thrive and move ahead as a company? And earlier all of this data was available, but in some form in Excel, in units, residing somewhere, doesn't give us a clear picture of where, what we are heading towards and how prepared we are today. So there's a very big project that we undertook to be able to start understanding and figuring out for ourselves as a company what are these skills that we require for today and for the future. And when we start building this, believe me, it is a task, and it's been on for the last 1.5 years, and it's still an ongoing journey where we're trying to figure out and baseline and put this into an AI-driven system to understand all of our skills, the top skills, the adjacent skills that are available, so that we are able to create a playground of opportunity for our employees. It helps us in a lot of internal mobility by increasing the talent pool for us, because when you go out to seek a particular kind of a talent, it is already shrinking. You don't have a talent that's readily available. But a lot of our talent is also residing in the organization. They may not have the exact top skill that is required to do. So for example, if there's a machine learning resource that you need, there are a lot of adjacent skills that are also okay to progress and make that person trainable over a period of time. So understanding the entire skill taxonomy and putting it on the system was a huge task. It's still ongoing, we've not achieved it fully. But the ability to then start building the employee profiles based on these skills, helping them get an assessment of where, for the role that I am playing today, what are the top skills, what are the adjacent skills required, where am I with respect to these skills today, and how do I rate myself as a professional? How does my manager assess me and rate me on these top skills, the adjacent skills? And then the AI system obviously is intelligent enough to be able to aggregate the entire insights from these assessments and nudge you towards towards development journeys that it is creating for you, the pathways that are getting created by hyper personalizing them, and obviously understanding your learning preferences over a period of time, being able to nudge you to the right kind of learning modality. What it is also doing, it is telling me that, hey Simran, you know what, based on the skills that you have, and yet, these could be the potential roles that are coming up in Amdocs for you, and would you want to apply for them? And if yes, maybe a couple of extra skills that you need to acquire and sharpen. We've also added what you call is, you can train people, put them on training journey, but then the project manager says that, oh come on, this person doesn't have any hands-on experience, why do I take him or her into the project? I need somebody who's ready-made, more hands-on. And that's where we introduced the element of being able to take up these project works, short-term apprentice projects, whatever you may want to call them, to take up and like an internal gig work that you create, that while I'm playing a certain role, I also have a short assignment that I can take up in an XYZ team and a unit where I could devote a few hours and be able to do a little bit of hands-on work to make myself more ready for that role. So these are different ways in which we are trying to make the learning also hyper-personalized. However, one of the things, and maybe, I don't know if it's a question, but one of the things that is also happening is that while AI has, we have these great systems that we have brought in, we have tried to integrate, but at the end of the day, if people don't use those systems, then what's the use? Right? So the huge aspect of change management, the making sure that the culture of being constant learning, upgrading myself, making myself more ready for the next role, has to be something that a human in the loop plays a very important role in being able to nurture, in being able to create. So I'll give you an example. Of course, there's a huge project around building the culture of learning, because learnability is a key skill. We all of us need it today in the ever-changing era. Creating that entire framework around how do we make people utilize what we've created and see the value. A, why should I do it? B, okay, then how do I do it? And C, where do I have the time? I mean, you're killing me with so much work. Where is the time to learn? So, making sure that the learning partner is partnering with the HR, with the business, and making sure that learning becomes not just a good to have, but a must have part of your overall journey as an employee. That's another important element that I'd like to add.
Simran, thank you so much. In fact, taking it through from what you just told about whether my investment is actually being used, I would want to go to Brilliant sir with this question. सर, आपकी स्पीच के बाद AI से तो डर नहीं लगता है, पर CXOs और CEOs और board members से ज़रूर लगता है, because they constantly question on us on ROI. Ma'am just spoke about it. So, what are some of the things that we should do or we should be tracking in organizations to know that my AI investment is actually giving me results?
Bhula. Has it ever happened to you? You forget a lot of things. No, we've been bashing AI, we've been bashing a lot about it, but I don't know how many of you are good observers here. Any good observers in this room? अरे कोई भी ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है? हाँ, चलो 2-3 तो चाहिए. Yeah. So can you tell me something that happened just a few minutes ago, which AI could not have done? Someone actually who was a human being went and switched off the AC. Right? And I'll tell you, as members in the panel here along with the moderator, I'm sure she's all excited, she's not feeling cold, but we are. So AI will detect this as something else. But there was a human being who understood that there is a need for us to recalibrate and change it. Right? That is where the beauty is. So my dear friends, AI jitna bhi dara le, what you need to remember is whether it's the CXO or the CEO asking you for ROI, first is what is the kind of impact you are going to bring in. Magesh spoke about VUCA Bani, but there is something new that has come in, Magesh, you know that? It's called tuna. T-U-N-A. अरे लोगों के पास काम नहीं है. They have to scare people. So they came up with tuna. What is tuna? Turbulent, uncertain, novel, and एक क्या हो सकता है? VUCA का ये डाल दो ambiguous. घुमा फिरा के 4 लेटर में तुम confuse कर दो लोगों को. That's what is happening, and we get scared by all of this. And if I have to showcase an ROI, then I think we are in the wrong profession. Because it's not always about ROIs. There are so many elements of AI implementation and adaptation that we cannot showcase. It's very subjective. Right? I cannot tell you the happiness and the joy of a recruiter who is happy today because he or she doesn't have to screen 1,000 CVs. That has increased my productivity, but there is no measure to it. But if you force me to look at some of these, then I can go back and say, you remember, मैं पहले बहुत परेशान था, एग्जाम में पास नहीं होता था, फिर मुझे मिला AI, अब मैं क्लास का टॉपर हूँ, अब मुझे एग्जाम से डर नहीं लगता. You have to be in that mode of before and after. So look at data. So all through what we have been talking is 36,000 feet view. Get down. Talk about data. Tell them that एक recruiter 2 महीने पहले एक दिन में 100 CV देख के एक select करता था. आज वो 100 CV देख के 10, 50, whatever is the ratio. That's an improvement. These are some measures which will not come in any textbooks. Sorry to say this. Your textbooks will not tell you this. It will come through experience and exposure. You will get frustrated. Interesting element, we were talking about impersonation today. How do you stop impersonation? Is there a way? And then I thought of, यहाँ पे बैठ के XIMA है ना? So we need to have an extremely innovative management of AI to avoid impersonation. So you got a full form for XIMA also. So how do you do it? Now, today we know, fake Aadhaar cards, fake, anything you want, it can be faked. So there is nothing that can replace a human being. So you need to be very cognizant of the fact, not the company, but as a person, that you need to be knowing that ये करने से मेरा ये improvement होगा. So I'll give you a biggest example. Today, I hire a lot of people in sales. And you know how it is, frontline sales. The most difficult job is walk-in interviews. If you have ever been a part of it, thousands of people come in and just about 5 or 10 get to the final round. We started looking at how do we make it productive. Because मेरा ना venue cost जाता है, मेरा management cost जाता है. There are so many elements. But problem is, as HR professionals, we've never measured it. So the CEO would always talk to us saying, attrition बताओ, manpower cost बताओ, ये बताओ, profitability में क्या क्या. Beyond that, we never talk about how we are adding value. And I think it's high time. We always talk about we want a seat in the board. Board room में तो बहुत सारी कुर्सियाँ हैं. क्या करोगे उधर जाके बैठ के? What are you wanting to do? Ask that question. If you want to add value, how do you bring it? And AI has to be an enabler. It cannot be taken as a threat or someone which will be superseding what you want to do. There was an ad, if you remember, a car company, they don't pay me so I will not promote them, used automated interviews to select their drivers. Right? No, don't, they are not paying you. So, was that successful? To an extent, yes. Then there was a company which used automated AI rejection tools and realized that there was a high level of rejection coming in because the person who defined parameters had a bias. So somewhere, as leaders, as practitioners, it's important for us to understand company को क्या चीज से फर्क पड़ने वाला है. One, obviously, is productivity. Second is profitability. And third and most important is कितने कम पैसे में ये सब हम achieve कर सकते हैं. And if you can tell them that I am investing XX amount here today, it will give me a saving in prorated years this much, and this is the output increase that we can expect, and this is the business growth. I think that is when we will have added value. Otherwise, we will keep making reports, and that's the frustrating part about being in HR. Right? हर बार PPT बनाना होता है, ये किया, वो किया, but finally annual report में वो एक लाइन में एक ही आता है. HR, manpower cost this, attrition is this, that's it. इतना सारा 36 पेज का PPT बना के 2 लाइन डाल दे. You get so frustrated. So start thinking about how you can be strategic in nature. There will be elements of execution without which you cannot succeed. But bring that element of adding to the strategic element as an executor. Otherwise, we are just doing gada majuri and it will not add value. The CEOs will continue to ask this and they will ask the question sometime later, तुमको काहे रखे हैं भैया?
So no more gada majuri for all of us. I just wish that I could keep on speaking to them because it is so interesting and so many insights from all 3 of you, but it is time to open the space to all of you. So students, we open the space for student interaction, and if you have questions for our panelists, please go ahead. I know we are running a little behind time, but I'm sure we will be able to make it up. So any questions? Yeah, Shloka has a question. Can somebody please pass on a mic to Shloka?
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shloka Kanodia from MBHR and batch of 2527. My question is for Brilliant, sir. So you spoke about having the judgment based on based on the output we get from AI, and understanding what we want to implement in that. So I wanted to understand better that sometimes when we get an answer from AI, we use it directly. Is it due to our underconfidence that we might not be able to research as well? Is it due to our laziness maybe? Or is it due to the bias that we have that what AI has given is correct? So what's your perspective?
Sorry, I couldn't hear your name here.
Shloka.
Shloka, do you use Swiggy and Zomato?
Yes.
You do, right? Do you like to cook?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. So now tell me, why do you order online?
Convenience and
Convenience. That's it. Full stop. Right? It's convenience. AI has become a tool which is convenient for us, and by repeated usage, we have become so dependent on it that we feel कि जो वो देता है वो सही देगा. And as human beings, we are so beautifully lazy that अगर मुफ्त में मिल जाए तो हमको कोई काम नहीं करना. Isn't it? We would not even want to get up and go and fix a thing which is probably 50 रुपए देके मैं urban clap से किसी को बुला लूँ. Why has that come in? Is probably being taken by someone else. Wait for that person to return the book and then find out information. Your time is getting saved. But what is getting misused is the lack of application of mind. We just pick up and dump it. My suggestion and recommendation is don't get too dependent on AI. Use it as an enabler. And one part of AI which many of us miss is the art of writing the right prompt. Right? You write a prompt, basic prompt, look at the response, change the prompt and look at the response. It will tell you how intelligent you are as compared to AI. So I would say, because I am so comfortable using AI because it knows सबसे सीख के जमा करके दे देता है, it trawls the internet and gives you the information, we become comfortable. So don't be comfortable, leverage your intelligence, use relevant elements. Today, AI ने दिया तो उसको ये करने के लिए there is something called as cancel AI kind of a mechanism which will check if this response has been generated by AI. Right? So be smart.
Thank you so much.
So I'll just give an add-on example on your judgment, right, to what Brilliant said. So there were about 100 CVs which came in and everything was AI scripted, right? We keep getting so many resumes and almost 20 people we selected for certain reasons. And then everything was an AI generated resume, but when they came in, there were so many people who were not even able to speak when asked for certain situational questions and analysis. So you would have written, for convenience sake, taken and put an AI resume. But end of it is you will start failing if you're not using your judgment.
So Shloka, what she said is very clear. AI should not say, Ayya. Right? Your responses should be intelligent enough.
Good morning, everyone. I am Hans Jaga, and my question is that with the AI taking over all the repetitive tasks, what kind of new HR roles we can expect to introduce in the future, in 5-10 years?
वो ज़्यादा दूर नहीं सोच रहा है, 5-10 years. 1st November 2023, you know what happened?
No, sir.
I celebrated my birthday and ChatGPT came in that day. Okay? 25th January 2025, what happened? DeepSeek came in. Right? When ChatGPT came in, people said, यार नौकरियां चली जाएंगी, ये होगा, वो होगा. 25th Jan, ChatGPT बोला मेरा जॉब को खतरा आ गया. So 5 years is too long a period. It's too early and too ambitious for us to plan that far ahead in the future. Today, I would say the dynamics are so high that in every 6 months there is a need for change. But some things which will help. I don't know if it will continue for 5 years or not. One is HR should be acting as data scientists, to be honest. You need to understand data. If you have an engineering background, great. If you don't, learn it. Why? Because it's all about getting those insights and making sure that you apply your intelligence to help management make decisions. We're discussing in the morning over breakfast. We have to be strategic advisors. We cannot be telling them, yaar, mere yahan pe na itna exit ho raha hai. That is available. But what can we do to address it? So become strategic advisors to the business. And most important element is, in all of these, one part is learn to code. Learn to code. And I'm not asking you to be a programmer, but it always helps because your dependency on someone else gets reduced. And if you are able to bring that skill, she spoke about it, but I'll say, become a very good storyteller. You have to be a storyteller. And if you cannot tell a story, then go take a walk. X-walk.
I'll just add, become a good storyteller, like brilliant.
And tech competency is most important. You need to be aware. I would always say that first understand what is needed. Become adept at it, adopt it, and then you become a superstar.
Sir, one more question. As some of the companies are using chatbot, AI chatbots to find out the mood of their employees and collect data from them. And as you said that AI cannot know why this particular thing is happening. So what can we do to tackle that issue to exactly know what we can do better in our organization to actually make the mood of our employees better?
तू क्या करेगा फिर? तू क्या करेगा? अगर सब कुछ AI करेगा, you know, in good old days when I was in college, I was told, सब कुछ राम करेगा तो शाम क्या मुफ्त में खाएगा? We are there as human beings, right? AI will throw data constantly to you, but I'll give an example. AI gave us a wonderful data insight tool about dashboard saying this is the productivity, and I saw there was one person whose productivity was at 110% for the last 2 months, and suddenly it dropped to 10%. The AI generated a red flag and said, this person's performance is an issue. Right? Red flag aa gaya, matlab, it's like, you know where to go. But then we started thinking, if a person has done this, we went back one step. We looked at the past year performance, quarter to quarter, and she has been a consistent performer. So something happened in that month where it came down to 10. And that is where the human level of what I would call as empathy, emotion management helped. Because we asked the HR partner to have a conversation and realized she was going through some trouble at home, because of which she was not able to focus on it. If I had relied purely on that AI data board and said, ye red mein gaya consistently, now in the next month also the productivity is going down, she would have probably gone out of the system. But thanks to that human element, we as HR professionals need to bring that element of human touch and connect. Otherwise, we are still like, you know, operating in that mode, जहाँ पे machine level assembly होता है ना, यहाँ से आया डब्बा डालो बंद करो, we will not be adding that.
Thank you, sir.
And just to add on to your question on the mood, part of it, Amazon implemented something called the moodometer, right? They use science and technology. You can see this case study on Google, but how they use science and technology to understand the mood swings or the happiness and the sad moment and the emotions of employees. And actually, what did HR do? They had to have some data coordinators, I won't say scientists, people who can read the data, drive the insights. Then you had to have HR business partners to work with those teams. So honestly, to your point, HR roles will continue to be there. They will evolve in the way technology is evolving. So they are here to stay. You'll have all the roles, but evolution is going to be the change.
Yeah.
Okay, one last question before we close the panel discussion.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shreya Chaudhary from the MBA HR batch of 25-27. So my question would be that based on what everyone discussed and also Sir just mentioned about we should learn coding because we should learn few skills that reduces the dependency. So my question is that are we moving more towards a generalist kind of mindset everywhere, even though until recently we were focusing more on specialists. Most of the job descriptions have requirements for specialists, but if we are trying to reduce dependency, then are we moving more towards a generalist kind of mindset? That is my question.
Yeah, so I think, good question. I think what I'm sure we've all heard of the T-shaped model of, so you are building depth in a particular area, but what I think today is absolutely important is the breadth also that you are able to bring to the table. In my own current organization, I'm seeing a lot of HR business leader roles, taking up a lot of sensing and talent and OD kind of work also. So it is not that you're going to go into a very specialized field and continue to be there forever. It is about being able to expand your breadth, pick up the right skills that help you perform multiple kinds of roles and make you more, a term that we used in Infosys called fungible. Your talent is fungible enough to move across and play different kind of roles and build your overall breadth as a talent. And I think that's what I'm seeing a lot of times happening in the organizations as well. So if I'm part of the OD and leadership team, I'm also I don't want to only get restricted to this particular field of work. There is a lot of option available for me to be on the other side of the table as well and play different kind of strategic roles in the HR overall space. So a lot of breadth needs to be added and we have to be ready. And as he said, building our capabilities as HR in the HR tech space is also extremely important. If I do not understand that, I will not be able to stay ahead of the game. And to be able to think ahead, plan for a future that you don't even see is not easy unless you have a lot of breadth and you're able to see across the whole spectrum of things. So that's what I'd like to add.
I think when he said coding, and correct me brilliant if your thought was right, I think it's important to have skills and exposure to every field. You cannot say that I don't know. You may have a hardcore developer coder, but at least from HR, you need to know how that system works, how the code works, so you can ask the right questions. And only when you have that exposure, you can specialize in a certain field, right? And you have to go deep into what you're doing. Say, for example, HR. You do a talent acquisition role, HR business partner role, learning, transformation, you get into HR operations. There is so much in HR, right, to be done. And once you specialize, but you need to have all the exposure and the skills what we spoke about. Constantly keep acquiring the skills because you're able to ask the right questions.
Okay, just to give a summary. Have you heard of OPC? One person company. Right? What does a one person company do? Right from a pew to a president, the roles are taken care by that one person. When I said coding, as he rightly said, it's not about actually writing code and getting कि भाई मैं तो programmer बन गया. No. Today, the dependency on other teams and the knowledge that we bring is very limited. I encourage all of you, as she said, it's about the team. Adjacent skill sets are important. We've been so famously branded as event managers, rangoli makers, right? है ना? अच्छा लगता है? So what's your response to that? Do you have a response? No, the response is simple. We are HR professionals. We ask people to draw rangolis because we want to understand how creative they are. We are assessing their creative skills. Now, go back and think about HR engagement activities. You want to release a poster. Your dependency on the marketing team is high. And if you have no idea of how to do things, you will create something which looks so shabby like a college kid, not a college kid, sorry, a school kid has done. Today, Canva solves that problem for you. But are you adept in using Canva? That's what makes a difference. I am not asking you to make a branding poster like what you see here. I am asking you to use some sense and skills which can help you. So think about it and don't get too carried away by saying, यार मुझे coding नहीं आता तो मेरा क्या होगा? Learn to work with people as well. But yeah, awareness is the most important element which will help you succeed.
Thank you.
Panelists, thank you so much for all these insights, wonderful stories, very interesting ones. Brilliant, sir, for those dialogues. Really interesting, and we could connect to the discussion better because of all the stories and the dialogues, and there was a lot of fun as well. We want to go on and on, but we cannot because we will have to come to a stop. And thank you, students, for your questions as well that added to the insights that the panel generated through discussions. We started with humans and AI and automation, right? So we have hands and we have head and we have heart. So let the hands be taken over probably by automation, let the head stay with AI, but let us keep the heart. Let the heart stay with us. And let the heart continue beating to the tune of compassion, empathy, and love. Thank you all.
Ms. Aparna Kapoor, Senior Vice President, HSBC Commercial Banking. Ms. Mimansa Popat, Former Lead, City, Asia and Middle East Africa. Ms. Nida Khanam, Head Human Resources, Greater India, Socomed Group. Our moderator for the panel discussion is Dr. Sanjay Bhattacharya, Assistant Professor, School of Human Resource Management, XIM University. I would now like to invite our esteemed moderator and panel members to kindly join the stage for the panel discussion. I now invite Dr. Shubhra Patnaik to welcome the dignitaries on the dais with a bouquet of flowers. For the panel discussion, we are honored to have with us today Ms. Aparna Kapoor, Senior Vice President, HSBC Commercial Banking. Ms. Kapoor is a seasoned banking professional with over 17 years at HSBC, specializing in business management, financial crime compliance, client service, portfolio monitoring, and digital transformation. She currently leads enterprise-wide initiatives in business banking, which includes key initiatives such as client onboarding journeys, online banking adoption, digital customer engagement tools like chatbot and live chat, and query management system. She is also the proud advocate of Women's Returner Program at HSBC. We are truly honored to have you here with us today, ma'am. We are now honored to introduce Ms. Mimansa Popat, former DEI and Talent Lead, City, Asia and Middle East Africa. Ms. Mimansa is a senior HR leader with over a decade of experience in talent management, strategic HR, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Her work across BFSI, IT, and media in Asia and the Middle East
has focused on reshaping leadership narratives and building inclusive workplaces. She has also enriched her expertise through prior HR roles at Disney Star TV and Wipro Limited. She is known for designing high-impact initiatives like reverse mentoring, return-to-work programs for women, and large-scale talent frameworks. She holds a gold medal in her BCom Honours degree in HRM and is a proud MBA in Human Resource Management alumna of Xavier Institute of Management, Bhubaneswar.
It is our privilege to introduce Ms. Nida Khanna, Head Human Resources, Greater India, Socom & Group. With over 20 years of rich experience across automotive, manufacturing, consumer durable, and technology industries, Ms. Nida is an accomplished HR leader known for driving HR transformation, organizational development, and people-centric strategies. She has previously served as Chief People Officer at Omega Seiki Mobility and was heading HR for Grohe India, Lixin Water Technology, and was at leadership roles in Rockwell Automation. Her expertise spans challenge management, employee engagement, change management, and HR strategy. Armed with an MBA in Human Resources and Agribusiness and an alumnus of IIM Calcutta, Ms. Nida brings both strategic vision and a hands-on leadership style. We are truly honored to have you here with us today, ma'am.
We would like to introduce our esteemed moderator for this panel discussion, Dr. Sanjay Bhattacharya. He is an accomplished academician, researcher, and HR professional with a distinguished career spanning over 17 years. He brings a unique blend of corporate and academic expertise, having worked in leading organizations like Genpact and Videocon Industries before transitioning to academia. Prior to his current role, he was associated with SCM HRD Pune for nearly a decade. Alongside his teaching, he is deeply passionate about contributing to his field through writing research papers and undertaking consultancy work. Thank you all for joining us today. Now, I cordially hand over the session to our respected moderator, Dr. Sanjay Bhattacharya.
Thank you, Dr. and Rajita. Good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, thank you very much to all three of you for agreeing to be here and sharing your pearls of wisdom with us. Thank you, the audience. You have displayed a lot of stability in your behavior through the entire day. We expect a similar stability in your behavior, and be with us, right? With the eyes wide open. So, stagility. When I first came across this term, stagility, when I was requested to be a part of this panel, my academic instincts crept in, and I readily moved into the various databases that we search, like the Elsevier, the Emeralds of the world, and Web of Science. To my surprise, I did not find a single research paper with this particular term. Maybe my keywords were wrong, I really don't know, but somehow the research returned with 0 results in the literature database. Then of course I sought the refuge of Google Mata and ChatGPT Bhaiya, and they definitely gave me a lot of ideas that what exactly industries are talking about. And then I chanced upon the Deloitte's Global Human Capital Trends Research Report 2025. Amazing insights on that. So it stated that 75% of the workers stated that they are hoping for greater stability in work in the future. However, 85% said that the organizations need to create more agile ways of organizing work to swiftly adapt to market changes. However, that report also stated that there is a growing disconnect between the organization's thought process and the worker's perspective, or the employee's perspective for that matter. Leaders are preparing for more agile ways of working, whereas the employees are seeking more stability. So there is a dichotomy that is prevailing that needs to be addressed somewhere. We hope that through the discussion today we will be able to arrive at a certain decision point for that matter. So So to kickstart the discussions today, I'll be very open with you. The questions will not be directed to any one particular individual. It will be an open question, and all of you are welcome to just pick it up and take it on the go and share it. Sorry, can you say? Right. So to start with, the first thing that I would want to know is that we understand that there is an inherent tension between stability and agility in the organization. There's bound to be an inherent tension which throws up across certain challenges. So as leaders of your organization, how do you identify those challenges and how do you work towards balancing those challenges, managing those challenges in order to maintain that stable equilibrium between stability and agility?
Firstly, we all are part of an organization, whether leaders or colleagues who run an organization. We ourselves get into that dilemma of how to balance it out. And most importantly, we ourselves get engraved into those issues. But with the time and with a lot of brainstorming, we come across solutions. The solutions may not be always relevant or may solve an issue. But in order to sustain the competition, reach the growth matrix that we've defined for ourselves, agility is important. And in order to become an organization which becomes an empire someday, stability is important. So we do navigate a lot through a lot of things. The answer is never that we have a correct answer. It gets evolved through a lot of discussions, right, do's, don'ts. Sometimes we do fail, but I think one thing clearly comes out. If you have an intention of growth, you will try to figure out between both the aspects of an organization which has growth in the mindset.
Yeah, so I personally think stability and agility are different sides of the same coin. Stability essentially brings the foundation to any organization. So for example, looking at it from a banking lens, right? Your compliance requirements, your risk frameworks, all of these are non-negotiable because they're governed by an external body like the RBI in India. So essentially those are non-negotiable and those need to be stable. What can be agile is how fast decisions are made, how much of a leeway does an organization give to its employees to make those decisions, your digital frameworks, what kind of AI tools do you use, all of that can be agile, but your stability is the foundation. And when we do talk about stability and agility, I think what is important, especially right now, because the way things are moving in an organization is way faster than they did 10 years ago. So it's equally important to be agile, but at the same time, you can't disrupt the very foundation or the core of the organization, which then makes your employees go helter-skelter. They then wonder if they have paychecks coming in, right? So don't touch that part of your ecosystem, but really focus on faster decision making, customer centricity, customer needs, all of that then takes priority when we talk about agility.
So you mean to say stability should be the core and agility should be at the edge, which keeps rubbing and getting
things moving, yes.
So for me, good afternoon first of all everyone, and thank you for being patient, and I must say one thing, you are very humble people. Very high on hospitality and very kind people. So applaud, Tali baja sakte ho. For me, stability and agility, it rhymes very well together, but they are not same. Somebody needs to be bad and mad, and when we say bad, very recently in an organization we said every teacher had bad, bold, agile. when you actually want to be agile and actually address the competitive edge, time is what matters. When Mansa was talking about in Aparna that what is stability, it's like a phone which you want stable, gire bhi to tute nahi, but you want apps which are very dynamic, which are quick. Since yesterday somehow we are kind of struggling, bar Wi-Fi on kar rahe hain. That's agility, we are trying to catch up with it. But that's what it is, agility and stability. You want everything very stable, you want a stronger organization which is ready for today and tomorrow, but you want processes agile, you want people who are agile. Another example which comes to my mind is like a football. You want players who are very strong, but you want a goalkeeper who is very agile, who is absolutely there, especially on the penalty. कौन market में hit कर देगा उस time पे? So you need to know, when Mansa was talking about, your stability is your values, your stability is your governance, which you can't temper, which you can't change. It's like human, your core values should not change. You need to agile, you need to adapt. And as you come into corporate, I'm sure you all will be, or you will start off on your own, you will understand what we're talking about.
So on this context, it is the people who are going to do the work. So they need to be very well ingrained with the ideas of stability and agility combined together. So in a way, can stagility be trained, or does it come with lived experience?
So for me, I think you learn through your experiences. I don't think so it is something which you train. Because even trainings today are not what the usual trainings were. Right? We are really making people involved. When you talk of agility, so in my organization we are multi-generational. From 19-year-old to 58-year-old we have in an organization. So there is an agility which is running through the organization. And if you work for a multinational, in any case you have something local, you have something APAC, you have something global. So you need to be agile at different ways. Some people adapt, they continue in the race, some people move out. And I think for me it is adaptation. It's all about that experience you continue together, and it's all about self-awareness somewhere. If you know that you want to be here, you will start learning. It's like talent. We all are born, most of us are born with the same kind of brain. It's how much you exercise, how much you keep exercising your muscles. So for me, it is like you can only train when you can only coach when somebody's coachable, otherwise you can't.
When you mentioned about generations, I was just thinking the other day that our grandparents, or some of your great grandparents, were born in 1920s, right? Our parents in 50s, 60s, some of us here in, I don't want to tell the year, but some of you in 2090s. Post-independence, the workforce was more agriculture driven. People were trying to build in small industries. Then came an era where education became important. The workforce, that time those people wanted to start working in government organizations. A generation, to the generation at least I belong to, we were one of the first people who came to the corporate lives. And now you talk about joining startups. Imagine the transition that has happened in the workforce, in the mindset of the people. I mean, if 20 years back, if I said I wanted to join an unestablished organization, I would have been whacked by my parents saying that, are you trying to risk your education, right? And at that point of time, government jobs were important because pension was important. Nobody thought beyond a fixed deposit as saving. So mindsets have changed, and so the workforce is changing. And it does not necessarily come from experience, but it also comes from the situation which is not controllable outside us. So that's the way agility helps us, and all of us try to stabilize ourselves in very different ways.
Makes sense. I just want to leave you on this question with a piece of advice. Our human brain really kind of looks, when things are changing around you, our human brain looks for similar things. Similar things is essentially stability. So when you're faced with difficult situations and work, and believe me, that will be every day, pause, reflect, understand what's happening in front of you, figure out the consequences of your action, and then in an agile manner approach the problem. So always first find your footing, which is stability, and then really maneuver to figuring out what are the next steps, figuring out how you will achieve what you need to achieve, right? So just leaving you with that for this question.
That is quite insightful. The pause, reflect, and try to think of the consequences. Though I may agree, but my favorite actor Rajkumar sir will not agree with you, क्योंकि उन्होंने यही कहा था जानी अंजाम की परवाह तो बुज़दिल करते हैं. But definitely that makes a lot of sense. So in this context, how do you think that has a need has arisen right now to look at restructuring the organization in a way just so that we are able to balance stability with flexibility?
I think since today we have been talking about restructuring, how does it matter to the organization?
Okay, so I'll add, and it's personal experience. City recently underwent a massive transformation. It's a global organization, so all of our reporting lines changed to global. In fact, my manager sits in New York, right? So that's how it works now. So for a bit, the stability went for a toss. But here's the thing, leaders really make an impact. So there are a couple of things that I believe a leader should be doing at times of change management. One is being transparent. Being transparent does not mean, hey, all of this is happening, you need to know everything. That's not how it works. A leader really needs to kind of understand what is the messaging that they need to put out, and at the same time kind of convey that I'm sharing with you all that I can in my power, right? That's one. Second is a leader should also continue to learn. In the earlier panel, you guys heard the importance of continue to learn, right? So the leaders are also going through the transformation themselves. Right? So as employees, you need to give them the benefit of doubt as well. But I think that's the second trait a leader should have. So I think these two traits really help with any change management process or transformation. But at the same time, I really had to become more agile than I probably ever had to do in my earlier stints. So for example, I was just telling one of you, and I don't remember who, but my work day starts at 7 a.m. Because I work New York time as well. So it starts at 7 a.m., 7 to 3-ish I'm working, 3 to 7, 8 I'm off. Like that's my time and I get to decide that. And then 8 to 10 I'm working again, right? So that's agility. Your Indian organizations don't work like that, right? So when there is transformation, you as an employee really need to give the organization the benefit of doubt, give your leaders the benefit of doubt, and at the same time, when you do become leaders, remember being transparent as much as it is in your power, and remember to continue to learn and ride the waves of transformation.
And when she mentioned about being transparent, my personal experience as leaders, you can't run a democracy in an organization. Be ready to take hard decisions. You might not be revealing everything that's happening behind the scene. The most important thing that you need to do is give assurance to your team that you're there and they are being taken care of. So when you mentioned about any structural changes that happened, I think assurance is the top-down conversation that should happen very often and which happens. And that's why such structural changes appear quite easy when the public sees it, or whenever you hear the news, this has happened, it has not happened as an overnight decision. It usually takes months and years to come to a decision, and that disrupting that stability and bringing in new structure is again because of two things. Firstly, the organization's vision changes.
and the mission statement that we always read when we were in college, that keeps changing and keeps evolving. But the only thing that remains stable is the value system. So any change, anything that can happen, remember that you need to give assurance to the people around.
So the question was around that do we need to make structural changes? So I think organization do. If they don't, then they are not competitive enough. You have to come out of comfort, which might disrupt routine, which might disrupt people, which might disrupt mindsets, right? And we cannot shy away from saying that as leaders, even HR business, everybody is impacted by the decision. Sometimes it is so close to your heart because you are doing something which you did it a year back, now you're changing. But is it important? So there is a short term and long term, and when Vidya was talking about tuna, I was reading through and I saw there's a rupt also, which is again talking about rapidness, unpredictability. So you're changing in such a way that if you don't change, people will actually swipe you away. You look at Tupperware, recently got closed. You saw Nokia stories, you heard about it. Why? Because they were not able to change with the market. You have to change. Coming back, mindset, and some few of my co-panelists talked about. It's like I always think when COVID was happening, we always look for work from home. We used to look for work from home. In COVID, work from home was a compulsion, not a choice. We wanted to come back to work because it was imposed. Now we again want work from home because again it has become a compulsion. So everything starts from mindset. So when you're talking of training, you can't train the mind. You can only change your own mind. Nobody else can do it for you. Coming back to leaders, the third part of it, I think leaders first have to accept that they are also in the same team. Vulnerability is okay. It's better sometimes to show off, tell people that you're also in the same boat. So when the change is happening, you're part of that change and accepting that change. When Mansa was talking about transparency, yes, transparency is very important, humility is very important, communication is very important, cohesion is very important. But what level? You can't go and say tomorrow you are going to lose your job. You can't go and do that. You can't talk of confidentiality that HR, for example, knows everything, so you can't go and tell people, this is going to happen. People who have to leave after 3 years will start leaving today. So as HR, you have to talk a lot, you have to strike a balance very clearly. You need to know when to set, whether you are shaking within and outside, but you need to know how to balance it. So I think these are stages which you only go through. And as you go through, you start learning.
In a way, you need to behave like the captain of the Titanic, perhaps, or the band that was playing on the decks of the Titanic. You know you're going to die, but you still need to put up that poker face.
Which doesn't mean that you continue to hold also. If you feel that you have to run, you have to run.
So, interestingly, when you talk about disrupting mindsets because of the constant changes, so isn't there a chance of the employees feeling threatened by this notion of constant change, and somewhere they would want to go back to their comfort zone? How do we tackle that resistance?
So I'll give an example of that, and I'll take that over to you. Last 3 years, and in my current company, I joined only 2 years back, but last 3 years, we have gone through a lot of change. So our company, which is 103-year-old, very, they say very, with all the pride, we are family culture now. Even till this year, they never used a word of performance-driven country. If you go to France, it looks like family. You have cars which you can just borrow and go and come back. Next Thursday you leave, come back Monday. But that's France. In APAC, it doesn't work that way in India. So India especially has gone through a lot of change. People working here since the JD went away for 20-30 years in the system, and when suddenly changes happened, everybody started feeling threatened. So we every year have employee survey, which is externally done. Internally, we do stay interviews, new hire interviews, and all that. In fact, this year we want to plan and go back when I think Aparna was talking that people don't talk about real self, real talk when they're leaving, but maybe, and that's exactly in our equation is coming out. So now we want to go back to people who have left 6 months back. to really see what exactly triggered. So psychological safety came up as one focus area. It came up very
Stole my
clearly across APAC. It came up that let us make mistakes. That emotional safety, which is not just physical safety, but safety where people feel that if I make a mistake, something will not happen again. And I'm not saying that you can do something against values. It is about a mistake when you're innovating, when you're creative, so that empowerment, that flexibility of innovation. If I make a mistake and I'm doing this, I will not, the repercussion will not be on the cost of my job. Or a manager is going to talk to me with an open mind that feedback is two-way, not one-way. It came up as a very, very strong point. And we actually took it up, and in our town halls we did speak to people that this has come up. And this is what we will do. And actually we took actions around it. So when you were talking about it, it is something which is hidden. Sometimes it comes up very openly, and you have to do something.
It takes a lot of time for employees even to realize why this decision was taken. See, sometimes we always, and all of us, we started somewhere and we realized that when we were there, we were cribbing about things in the organization. But later we realized the value of those changes. Again, the point is having a lot of conversation and confronting with your team members is very important. Else there will be murmurs, rumors, which we all tend to believe because we get anxious very soon.
I honestly don't have anything additional to add, just a quick one. We all know change fatigue is real, like attending panel discussion fatigue is real. So essentially, recognize that change fatigue that comes your way. But what really helps leaders, organizations, is to show you the ROI of the change that is happening, right? What is the return of investment on what you are going through with the transition, to kind of make you feel like you're one with the transition, you belong, you will still continue to belong, right? So that showing of ROI becomes very critical when we manage employees as HR partners or as HR leaders.
So psychological safety will definitely have a major role to play, along with having more and more conversation, confronting the fears. So that probably we will be able to figure out that the resistance is not real. I mean, the fear is not real. So on that context, when we talk about these fresh people, when they are actually walking into the industry, when the leaders are expecting them to be agile, so what skills and mindsets must employees develop to fit in?
Agile. See, when freshers enter, they should be open. I mean, you're in a learning phase, take it as it comes. Good to challenge, but best to accept. Accept, move on, learn, and speak up is very important. Keep talking to your seniors. Don't hear the murmur again, that's very important. When we talk about change, murmur comes along. I think 3 of us sitting here and the rest sitting ahead would agree to it, that there's too much of anxiousness when some change happens. So keep talking, be open, and always respect an organization, because an organization is there because it has people thinking at the behind. So you have to be open to the changes. Don't go with a closed mindset that this organization will allow me 4 days of work from home. Right? I tell you, we take interviews and the first question that comes is, how many days work from home? I'm like, I mean, just first come to the office, join the organization, we'll tell you later.
And honestly, don't get boggled and get stuck. You always have an out. You may not think like that right now, because you will end up joining the organization that chooses you right now. But you will always have an out. So if, for example, the way the company is transitioning, transforming, is not what aligns to you culturally, you would know your values, what you stand for, what kind of culture works for you. And if it's not evolving in a direction that is working for you, always know that you have an out, you can move out, you can find other opportunities. So don't get disheartened by that change. That's very important. Hold your ground, see it through. So for example, when we talk about change, we're currently only largely talking about company-driven change, right? There is change that happens through our external factors as well. So for example, the government passed a law which became an act overnight that you can't pay to play. Your Dream 11s, your pokers of the world. This is not an organization-driven change. It is an external change, right? So the way now, for example, organizations like Dream 11 pivot, and if that is not something that works for you, you can always pivot your own careers as well, right? So don't forget that.
So I think they too have added. For me, I think ownership is important. So when you can always crimp, you can always complain, you can always quit. But if you don't have ownership, you can only be a silent observer. So own it, be a part of it, try, do best what you can. And I think they also added flexibility is important, adaptability is very important without compromising with your core values. I think that's the essence when you talk of stability. But if you don't keep moving, and if you feel that I know all, which is the worst syndrome and which works against any of us, we don't know. We even don't know ourselves. That's the longest journey if you really think about. So you need to be open to take feedbacks. Take it in a stride that you can understand. You need to have that hunger in yourself. Even if the restructure would not do anything, if you have a hunger to move and keep moving within the organization, and if you are work, you will find something outside also. So I think stakes are high, but stakes are high at what cost? And what is your contribution? So you need to ask yourself, continuously ask yourself, what are you contributing to change? And how are you changing?
Just one thing, and I would like to share one of my personal experience. At times, I get questioned by my classmates who've done MBA with me. How are you there in an organization for 17 years? This is your first job, you're still there. So you're relaxed, you're stable, right? Prana, I say, and I don't answer that. So if we plan a holiday and they say, Prana, take a leave, I say, I can't take a leave. Right now I have something important. And they say, तुम तो stable हो ना, तुमको क्या है? That's not the point. The point is that I am accountable to my job, to what she said. I'm accountable for my career. I might have navigated different roles in an organization. I would have tried new things. And that's why you feel that stable, but every day I undergo a lot of changes. So in order to feel stable in your mind, you have to quickly adapt to some changes that are happening around. Like she mentioned that she was at City, right? And City underwent a change. Could we go and say that I don't get up at 7 a.m. and start working? Could be, she could have said that, but that may not have helped her reach or fulfill her own career aspiration that she had, right? So there's always a trade-off between what you want and what is provided. And sometimes you need to accept what is coming your way and move ahead.
So it's like own it to earn it. And owning is not a one-time activity, it should be a concurrent activity and a continuous process that one should go through. So when we talk about workforce stagility, I'm sure there are some leading indicators that organizations should be regularly monitoring. So what are some of the leading indicators that one should be monitoring with respect to workforce stagility?
Very quantitative numbers, your customer base. Your segments and restructures what we talked about. So how many customers people have added, how many have been regained, how many have been retained. That's the customer base. When we talk of the projects, what projects have been taken and whether it is digitization, or so how many people are part of it from cross-functional. I think organizations should more have sounding boards where you have people coming and challenging you.
people have voiced, not just by the employee surveys, but I think from the perspective of seeing what ownership they can drive. And I'm talking of like one of the interventions which at least in my organization has is a sounding board where we only have that for below 30 years, which is a CEO sounding board. And that's echoing, it's to challenge the CEO and it's to live his life or her life. And if they, and we pick up people thinking that they're the HiPods and they get to see they're actually a HiPods or not. So it is a program which keeps running, and these are few indicators which I'm talking of. But as I said, from the business side, it's more on the quality, it's more on the customers, it's more on the sales, bottom line, top line is always there. But I think these are the quantitative ones. If we talk of qualitative, again, iteration and internal mobility. These are few indicators. Your employee survey is another indicator, which shows that how people have been with you, starting from your person who joins in till the person who's leaving. And another indicator can be your rehire.
Share price. So that's the first one, very clear. If you see as an employee, your organization's share price hasn't grown, it's been stagnant over the last couple of years, know that an impending change is coming your way. That's one, as an employee. Qualitatively, I would want to, outside, and quantitatively obviously she covers, so I don't want to add to that. Qualitatively, employee pulse surveys, they are very important. Stay interviews, that the last panel spoke about, they are very important. And third, so during COVID, and I keep on going back because COVID essentially what it did for the whole of the HR fraternity is to really move us from a rangoli making department to people who actually make a difference in everybody's lives, right? So COVID was that landmark for HR professionals, in my opinion. During COVID, what we did was we spoke to all of the 30,000 employees at City on a one-on-one basis. So each HR business partner reached out to the employees on a one-on-one basis. It wasn't stay interviews, it just was to understand how they are doing because it was unprecedented times. So the qualitative inputs that we got out of that really made a huge difference. So I think that's another way that you can get the inputs in from your employees as their HR business partners.
So generally there is not much of a need to overhaul the talent management process. It's just that the existing process can show us the inputs that we need to cover.
Yes. Unless there is an external push to overhaul your existing processes or teams. I was just speaking to, I think, Palak and Tanu from the first year, and they had really insightful questions on DEI. So I was telling them how City, given Trump, since when Trump came into power, he has been on this agenda of removing diversity, inclusion from their country itself, but largely from organizations. So we had to follow suit. We had to change our name to Engagement. It's not DEI anymore because it's a global US-based MNC bank, right? So we had to do that. We had to look at our talent programs, for example, which were focused only on, say, we used to run a talent program for people with disabilities globally. We had to change it and we had to make it open to everybody. Now, does that make sense? In my eyes, the answer is no, because there was a need that we curated a specific talent program and a talent framework that existed for these people, but now we're making it open to everybody, so now it's generic and it doesn't make sense for them, right? So unless and until, and this is my opinion, unless and until there's a real external push to changing the very core of your talent frameworks, ideally should not be disrupted.
So, from business perspective, sometimes a lot of new products get added, the existing ones need change, and you really need to bring in a new bloodline in your organization. Then the need arises.
So do you foresee the notion of stagility becoming a universal workforce philosophy in times to come?
So I think it is already in. We don't say it, but the word is new. It sounds very nice. But isn't that the reality? We are continuously fighting in the organization for stability from governance side and agility in the market side. We are doing it. From our lives, we are doing it. We are trying to keep our family stable and ourselves in the market agile. Or even at work, even in the relationships, your life is agile, right? What our sibling used to have, what our parent, what our daughter wanted to have is different. You have to have a stable income to be agile there. So I think that's a part of life already. It's just that the word is point now. You keep
So
talking.
it's just an old wine in a new bottle, perhaps?
Yeah, it's just that we are more aware of that this is something which existed. We were fighting with it, or we were continuously working towards it. The word has
So broader awareness is there. We realized it earlier, but somehow the
I think
conscious
still
awareness.
people keep talking that this organization is very stable, like people are very stable, but in that stability what you have done, are you only complacent in one role and you have grown in that? Over the year, like I was talking to somebody yesterday that I know a person who is semi-skilled, continued to be in the organization 20 years in the same role. And the other is that a GT has moved to an MD role. Or a service engineer has moved to an MD role. So these are two types of agility and stability example. So I think that's where it is.
In fact, the first panel discussion where we were talking about AI and the whole scheme of things while running a corporate, we come from a time where we saw if we wanted to streamline a process in an organization, it was RPA, then Python, and now AI. So it was always there. I mean, we called it streamlining or bringing in more efficiency. That was the term used then. But now we call it agility, right? That's the difference. I mean, every time we coin a new terminology, sounds nice, and then somebody else will come and coin a new one.
So from hookah to tuna to something else, as we were discussing, yeah, exactly, so something like that. Okay, great. So I would now like to invite participation from our audience. The stage is now open for the audience to pose their questions. So
only they're awake.
They are strikingly awake. I can see all the eyes open. Oh, quite a few hands have been raised. Can we pass on the mic, please?
XIMAHR, no planted questions. We used to do that in our times, but no more. Times have changed, right?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shloka Kanodia from MBHR. My question is that...
You were the first person to ask in the last panel session too.
My question is that from an organizational perspective, are there certain teams or fields or roles even that need to focus more on agility more than stability, and also which ones need to focus more on the other aspect?
Yeah, sure. So nowadays companies are focusing, so there are roles which are focusing on competitive edge. There are roles which are working on strategy. Marketing has some functions which are leading that. Then you have, when you talk of AI, you have separate, so even IT is divided into different. So one is IT user, one is IT which is on ERPs and processes, then you have digitalization, then you have digitization, which works on process improvement continuously to see how you can work better. So I think companies are coming up, it's like earlier we used to have HR, IR, now we have a D&I department, then you have CSR department, so companies are focusing on it. However, the core teams remains a lot of times same, but there are groups.
I'll add to that, but from a little bit more of an HR. So she focused on the micro part. I'll add to it from an HR perspective. Your HR business partnering roles become strategic in nature now with AI coming in, transactions going out, and that's actually happening. So that will always be a very agile kind of a role, because while you will follow the processes, your performance evaluation will happen once a year or twice a year, right? Or in some organizations like Wipro quarterly. That will happen. Your comm cycles will happen. Your hiring channels will continue to kind of diversify and grow. But at the same time, why does an HR business partner need to be agile is because the world is changing. The GST impact that I'm sure all of you must have read about in a good way has impacted businesses and how organizations do business, etc. also, right? So if your business is changing, you as an HR business partner supporting that business really need to be all over the place to kind of figure out how you can support them better. So that's an agile role. Talent acquisition with AI coming in will continue to be agile. Learning, your learning COEs, now they really need to pivot because a lot of the learning curriculums internally focus on AI, right? Focus on AI learnings, what kind of prompts to give, right? So you're teaching your employees that. So learning is constantly agile. I think what largely would remain stable, and this is for huge organizations, is their policy teams, their ER teams. ER is employee relations. These are the teams who conduct investigations, etc. Right? So that largely would not change, but some of these other functions within HR would possibly need to be applied.
Thank you, AC. Thank you.
And outside HR, I think compliance and legals don't change. They remain constant because we are governed by certain regulation in the country and the regulator. So we need to be quite compliant to what has been directed to do. So not much of changes, but yes, policy changes impact us immediately. So that may need a tweaking, but most of the time these are the very stable kind of profiles in the organization.
एक और चीज, रंगोली अभी भी बंद नहीं होती है।
हो गई
बनती है,
अच्छा,
आगे
बनती है।
चले गए,
हाँ।
आगे बहुत निकल गया, लेकिन जो था वो है, कुछ चीजें अभी भी हैं। You still have to have dances, zumba, yoga. It has become a more strategic part of employee engagement.
Mental well-being.
Yeah, mental and physical well-being is part of it.
Thank you.
नाम चेंज हो गया थोड़ा।
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shreya Chaudhary from the XIMAHR batch of 25-27. So my question was actually regarding learning and development and upskilling, and ma'am just mentioned. So it is something that runs parallel with change, and the pace of change is faster than ever. There is one gap that always remains, which is with providing the skill and knowledge, gaining the knowledge, and the gap with how much they are able to implement it in actuality. And there has been a lot of companies invest a lot in that field, and it is something that is non-negotiable. So my question is, in real life scenario and actually in an organization, how is that gap managed? Because it affects the performance, it affects the psychological safety aspect too.
I'll answer from an employee perspective, I'm not an HR, and then I'll let the two HR answer that. First and foremost, it is our own responsibility to upskill ourselves. Always remember that. Organizations may have a division to run that, but it is your own responsibility to drive your career to the stride you want to take it to. So keep upskilling yourself, keep learning. And either we're talking, we did some course recently from IIM after so many years of working, right? Because we wanted to make ourselves relevant, so don't be dependent on the organization. I leave it to the two HRs to answer your question.
So I think the way you look at learning as a strategic HR professional is you don't take business out of the equation. You want to fill the gap, business, you can't go on your own tangent and say, oh, I do it. That's not how it works. Functional trainings, obviously, you work with business, right? Because they will tell you the needs. But when it comes to behavioral, cultural trainings, which actually make or mar an organization, don't take business out of the equation. On a quarterly basis, half-yearly basis, do that training need analysis with your business heads whenever you do join an organization to understand what we're looking at and kind of try and deliver accordingly, keeping in mind the cost pressures. A lot of transformation currently happening right now in organizations is largely due to cost pressures or share price. Those are the only two reasons largely that changes happen, transformations happen. So don't take cost out of the equation, don't take business out of the equation. You will by default bridge the gap.
Want me to add also, or you're done?
No, sure.
So I think just one last thing. Cost important, business important. No training is a tick in the box. If you're doing it because you're an HR, you have to complete your
calendar, please don't do it. That's, I think, from HR perspective. I see my team coming to me and saying we should do this X, Y, Z. Excel is also important, but for a group who has that role of using Excel. But otherwise, if you're doing any program, see who are that audience which needs it. Does really business needs it? And what would be your areas where you will be able to actually see an ROI? It might not be in numbers, it might be in behavior, it might be in a way mindset is shaping up. Even in your enlarging your customers. So there will be different criteria, you will look into it, these are objectives and this is how I would see an ROI. Not very objectively looked at it, but no program should be done just for making HR happy or CEO happy or anybody happy. Because otherwise it is good food and good food. And you come out and you forget.
One learning or one solution does not fit all.
Thank you.
There are a couple of hands on this side.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Ganesh Nakaraki. I'm from MBA HR and batch of 2527. My question was, with the post-COVID, as you have mentioned, that the progress has been rigorous and changes have been rigorous. And also the generation after COVID or during the COVID who have gone through it, and changes in terms of AI or technology has been very much fast. And people have been more more personalized. Employees in an organization want more personalized, what you would say, guidance towards their growth or towards their behavior in the organization. And because of some changes in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, as you have mentioned, that it has changed to engagement rather than EPI, and it has become more generic. So how do we tackle that, not being it more generic, but also catering employees in their more personal way?
That's a great question, and that's a dilemma we try and solve for every day. In my personal opinion, hyper-personalization is out. Your HR business partners have larger spans in terms of the employees that they manage. And also not just that, right? Your workplaces are hybrid. So how do you be hyper-personalized when people are working from their homes or wherever they're working from 2-3 days a week? So, so that hyper-personalization that baby boomers or Gen X used to crave for, that's out the window. Millennials kind of changed the trend. COVID fast-tracked it. And Gen Z really, no offense, Gen Z really cares about making their voice heard, being remote, working from anywhere they want to, not bound to the 9 to 6 typical 9 to 6 life. So they are essentially proving to us that there is life outside of work. Us as in not me, I'm with you, I'm a millennial, so there is life outside of work. So I don't want my manager or my HR partner to constantly sit on my head, micromanage, hyper-personalize solutions. Nobody wants that anymore. But at the same time, you can't forget the core of DEI, for example, in this case, or core of why you do business, right? So, so what I do with my teams largely is that, I used to do at City was that we are hybrid in nature, but weekly huddles is a non-negotiable. Quarterly offsites is a non-negotiable. So you kind of try to bring in a little bit of standardization and personalization to your very team. But again, that differs from team to team, manager to manager, right? So that's how we kind of try to look at it. But again, when you're influenced by external factors, you can't do much but adapt to it.
I can add. So a lot of time that personalization might be missing, but then companies have come up with online solutions. So you have LinkedIn, you have academies internally, where you have your personal account and you can pick up what you feel from your manager side or your personal side in terms of your aspiration, in terms of your role, in terms of your interest, what do you want to do, which is very personalized. It is not forced except the mandatory trainings like IT, cyber, integrity, COC and etc. it is your personalization, which companies, at least some companies are still doing. Thousands of courses are available and you can pick and choose which works for you.
We can take one last question if there is one.
Change begins.
Was there anything else structured?
So you're talking about restructuring the strategy that we followed
Yes.
for the transformation. Okay, fair. I'm not going to talk about business transformation. I'm going to talk about HR transformation, which obviously mirrored the business transformation. DEI ko hata do, that's just one part of it. But when we look at the larger HR transformation, everything is global. So the way HR business partnership or strategic advisory works at City now is that there's a person sitting in Mumbai or Manila. These are some of our hubs across the world. They really manage a particular business as their HR business partner, but globally. So if there's an HR business partner, they will look at supporting all of the finance folks, not just based in India or Philippines or Singapore or wherever, but globally. So that if there's somebody who sits in Tampa, for example, who is a finance guy or a girl, they will still reach out to the HR business partner here in Mumbai, right? So everything's global now. The synergies are global. Now, what this does, and as an impact, what this does to an employee or an HR professional is you are only responsible for one silo of a business unit, even though it's global. Whereas in an earlier time, you would be responsible for finance, legal, compliance, from a functions perspective for Asia, right? So it gives you the depth, but it doesn't give you the breadth, right? So the way organizations are looking to be restructured, and I'm talking about global organizations largely, they're trying to hold the power or hold the decision-making processes at wherever their base is. So for Citibank, it's New York. And they're trying to give their HR professionals or business professionals depth rather than the breadth. So that's how the blueprint largely was constructed for the city restructure. DEI sadly was a byproduct of Trump coming into office. There was no other plan to change DEI or make it more generic. And I think another restructure is impending, given the current geopolitical ways of working, where we're trying to kind of hold the power in East with China, Russia. It's time that Indian professionals also kind of look at Indianizing their HR skill set, right? Obviously, you need to work for global organizations because that brings a different skill set to your kitty. But Indianize your skill set largely through trainings, upskilling, etc. Even if you don't work for Indian organizations, because I think that's going to be critical over the next decade or two.
All right, thank you very much. So that brings us to a fruitful conclusion to the discussion that we've had. A lot of learnings personally, and I'm sure the audience has also derived a lot of learnings. So a couple of things that I'm definitely going to take away is that stability and agility may rhyme well, but they are quite different, though they are, they are two different sides of the same coin perhaps. It's good to be bad. Bold, agile and disruptive. I think that is something that can be a key takeaway for all of us around here. And when it comes to stagility, of course, we should never take cost out of the equation. And definitely, there has to be transparency in leadership communication when it comes to sharing our expectations with our workforce. So that becomes an important part of the whole equation altogether. So thank you very much, panel, for your insightful wisdom that you chose to share with us. I'm sure it has been a great learning experience for everyone, including me. I, for one, can definitely vouch for that. Thank you very much once again for your time and efforts. Over to you.
With this, we conclude our second panel discussion. I take this opportunity to thank the respective dignitaries for such an enriching and women-dominated panel discussion. On behalf of the School of Human Resource Management, XIM University, I now invite Dr. Kalpana Sahu to felicitate the dignitaries on the dais. Ladies and gentlemen, this event has provided us with a valuable platform to engage in thought-provoking discussions on achieving stagility, balancing workforce stability with agile transformation. As we now draw the curtains on the HR Symposium 2025, I have the honor of inviting Dr. Moshmi Pari, Associate Dean, School of Human Resource Management, XIM University, to propose the vote of thanks.
Esteemed speakers, Dean School of HRM, Professor Andrew Datta, guests from media, faculty colleagues and my dear students. On behalf of the School of HRM, it is my honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks to express our heartfelt gratitude to everyone who made the HR Symposium 2025 Stagility, Balancing Workforce Stability with Agile Transformation, a resounding success. I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our keynote speaker, esteemed panelists and moderators. Your remarkable discussion has elevated the symposium into a truly luminous gathering. Thank you for so generously sharing your expertise and leaving an unforgettable mark on everyone who had the privilege to be part of this experience. We are truly grateful to you for setting aside time from your busy weekend schedule and traveling such a long distance and putting up with the bumpy roads. We deeply appreciate your contribution to the HR Symposium 2025. Our special thanks to our moderators, Professor Sanjay Bhattacharya and Professor Shubhra Patnaik, whose skillful facilitation and engaging discussions kept the sessions lively, focused, and impactful. Your ability to steer conversations and connect ideas was truly commendable. We sincerely thank our newly appointed Vice Chancellor, Dr. K.S. Kashmir Raj, who assumed office only yesterday, for extending his support to the symposium right from the very outset. We are indebted to our registrar, Father S. Anthony Raj, for providing the administrative support through his team. I would also wish to thank our Dean, Professor Andrew Datta, for being the guiding light and for his ever-abiding guidance. Thank you, Professor Shubhra Patnaik, Faculty Advisor, for a meticulous planning, tireless efforts, and exceptional organizational skills. I wish to thank the administrative team led by Mr. Prashant Mohapatra that has been working behind the scenes to manage the logistics, food, decor, etc. We are grateful to the team of Mr. Shailendra Roy for his flawless technical support. We are indebted to the support extended by Mr. Digambar Rath, Mizani Sahu and Mr. Jagat. They have been continually working in the back and overseeing travel of guests to facilities being provided for the students here. We wish to thank our friends from the media who made it here to provide coverage to Symposium 2025. On behalf of the School of HRM, a heartfelt thank you to Team XIMAHR for orchestrating yet another outstanding edition of the annual symposium. Thank you, Team Excellence, for capturing the moments of the symposium. Thank you, Team Illuminatics, for connecting us with our media friends. Last but not the least, I wish to extend my thanks to the School of HRM family, my faculty colleagues, students of the first year and second year. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for accompanying us through Symposium 2025 and standing together as one. Thank you.
On behalf of XIMAHR, the HR Association of the School of Human Resource Management, XIM University, I, Rajita Ashtekar, the coordinator, thank you all for being a part of HR Symposium 2025. Your presence, enthusiasm, and positive energy helped us in making it a spectacular event. I thank you for your cooperation and wish you a pleasant evening.